Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here with episode 256 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it's me, Karak, with ACG.
All right, Karak. The big week has finally happened. We got a lot of information on the PlayStation 5. We are going through literally every game reveal in today's show, thoroughly combing over everything that transpired, giving our opinions on each game. But quickly, I just want to know, how are you feeling?
Excellent.
Good.
As always.
Good. Glad
Absolutely
to hear.
Best days ever. Best days of my life.
Really?
now I'm just being a smartass. No, good. Good.
Was that like a bad rhetorical question? Like, just given everything that's happening, just asking if you're doing all right? Pretty
No,
stupid,
you know why? I think it's because everybody I know who I talk to, like, who live, like physically that I know if I'm in a bad mood, because or if I don't feel good, because I tell them. So like, I'm rarely asked that kind of a pointed question, like, how are you feeling? Because everybody around me would be like, we know how he's feeling, So it sort of threw me for a loop, but no,
yeah,
good.
It's funny you say that, because like, I'm one of those people that you can just tell when I'm annoyed. I can't hide it. It's not even like I try to let people know and like give them a cold shoulder. Like, you can just tell. And like, it's even happened in my videos. Like, I've had a really bad day and I'm trying to act uppity, but you can tell there's like something missing there.
It's hard.
And people are like, what's wrong with Matty? And I'm like, oh God, like, that's what you don't want to do.
Yeah, right.
So
it translates, doesn't it?
I've been there, man. Anyway, as always, we still want to keep some of our traditions for our podcast. We want to let you guys know we are available on Patreon. So $1 will get you early access to this show. Last week, we did a special episode of the podcast where we focused in on Persona 5 Royal. We did a entire review discussion slash spoiler cast. By the time you're listening to this video, also, my big Persona project called The Future of Persona, along with a couple of my friends, will be out by now. It's like a 40-plus minute critique of Persona 5 Royal and a breakdown of the future of the franchise. It's something we spent many weeks on. So if you have not watched it yet, even if you are not a Persona fan, I think you'll find it interesting from like a fact standpoint in building a game and all the additions that have come to that title. So we do ask that you just give that a look. We spend a lot of time on it, more than most projects that come out on my channel. So I would appreciate that. But that's all I really have to promote, just the early access for the show, which we do every Friday, as well as our big Persona project. Karak, what about you, my friend?
I don't have anything. I did a Desperados review this morning, and I'm doing Shipbreakers and Last of Us 2 and, some like smaller games, but nothing really big video-wise, at least for now. I do have some stuff working, but it's somebody else who's handling it, which is sort of nice, I got to admit. It's sort of nice. Somebody contacted me, because actually you and I have talked about this, where it's like you contact, and then sometimes you don't get contact. Like, you'll contact somebody for a project, but then maybe they won't contact you if they have a project, and you're like, that's sort of weird. Like, I guess I'm just the one reaching out for this stuff.
Right.
And it was somebody else, which was nice. So I was just I'm just letting them do it. It might be good news.
Kev did for me. He reached out and had like this grand plan for like a big Fallout 76 prank, and he kind of pulled me in on it.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, and especially with this Persona project, I can edit big videos, and I do plan on doing a couple on my channel, but this was one that I wanted to see what it was like to just hand it off to an editor. We handed it to Dustin, who works on Colin's Last Stand, and I did a podcast with him, and he did an excellent job. So, I was thrilled to work with him, and it definitely is like that load off working with someone and having them handle it. Like, I was able, there was no shot, like all the videos I produced this week, like the tier list, the Kingdoms of Amalur coverage, just everything I did this week. There's no way I could have done that on top of this Persona video, because he worked on it pretty extensively. So
yeah, that's awesome.
We appreciate Dustin's work and all editors out there who lend their time. But yeah, what have you been playing? You said you reviewed Desperados 3?
Yeah, and then been playing did Disintegration.
Okay, I heard like mixed things about that.
Yeah, it was not good. That was a never touch.
Sucks. Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because I rarely do never touch, because that's like $5. That means I don't even think it's worth $5. I honestly do not think that game is worth $5. It was just unfun. It was unfun, which is weird, because then Desperados might be the most fun game I played all year, which was a weird dichotomy to come off of one and then like cackling to myself at 3 a.m. playing a game the next day. It was so weird. I honestly, you know what? I really have not been playing anything. I've been doing a bunch of like not outdoor stuff, but a bunch of like house stuff. And
Yeah, I hear that.
yeah, I have not, man. I feel like I'm gonna screw up and that I have been playing something, but no, I think it was those 2 games and that's it.
I feel
Not
you on
really
that.
action packed this week.
No, I'm on the same page. Once I finished Persona 5 Royal, it's such a huge undertaking. You know, I did hop back into it. I actually played it a little bit this past week, but, you know, just like an hour or so, just because I love the game so much. But, you know, really all I've been playing is Valorant. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I just,
gotcha.
once I finished Royal, I was like, all right, I love that game so much. Like, I'd argue it's like the game of the generation, but I loved it so much that I know I'd be hurting other games by immediately leaping into them. So I've been tinkering around on my Game Boy for a little project I've been working on. I've been a little more work oriented with how I game. I've picked up a couple of games too. I bought Dragon Age Inquisition because my entire audience on my tier list was like demanding I do a re-review of that game because I ranked it at a C. And a lot of people were just like, what? Like, it's so good though. And I've heard this for 6 years now. I've heard for 6 years now that I need to give an updated opinion on Dragon Age Inquisition. So it was $8 for the game and all of its DLC on PS4. So I said, all right, this is a sign. I bought it. I also bought Dark Souls 3 with all of its DLC because I was told that I was missing out there.
Oh yeah, Dark Souls 3 is good. Dragon Age Inquisition, the people who told you that are liars.
I know,
I'm playing it right now on the
so
PC
too.
with mods, with camera mods, and it is much better. But you gave it a C, which is actually, I think,
generous.
that's pretty generous for that.
I
We're
tried
talking
to
about
honor-
your JRPG one, or your
I
RPG
did
one.
Yeah, I did all like RPGs from like the last 10 years, and
I guess it depends on what you were rating it on, but what I saw of the video, I don't think it was a C was bad.
No, it wasn't like anyone was mad. They were like, you got to try it again, though. Because for me, I remember I rated it a C because I thought like the whole system of like sitting on the throne and deciding what to do with people was really neat. I know some of the companions have great stories. I remember that. I thought the combat was actually one of the stronger parts of the game because it was that ideal blending of two and Origins, like a mixture of tactical and action. And if they're going to continue the series, then I wouldn't mind it going that way. So I tried to honor those things, but I just remember how like sorely disinterested I was in the story and the gameplay loop. And like the gameplay loop was the biggest hit for me. Like it's terrible from what I remember. But I thought it would make for an interesting video. I'm a huge RPG guy. And I know my channel's based around RPGs, and I know I've made it very clear I think Inquisition is not very good. So it'll be fun to go back and do a 2020 review because those videos do better than my own reviews on like new games. Like if I reviewed The Last of Us Part 2 and then I did a 2020 review for Inquisition the same week, I guarantee Inquisition would do better.
Right now with the way shit's going, we talked about prior to the start. Yes, I would agree that there is a very high chance that would happen. Like it is the Wild West.
Yeah,
more than it has ever been.
But I thrive in that kind of area because I'm very much I want to do, like, I listen to my audience. Obviously, I'm playing this game because of them, but like I like to do what I want in a sense. Not like I'm stubborn, but sometimes I don't want to like follow
the newest
every
game.
single launch. Yeah, like I know for a fact if I weren't a content creator, I wouldn't be doing that. So Anyway, what I've been playing this week is Valorant. I've played that every single night with my buddies. We've been queuing up with 5 people. And it has been a lot of fun. I really didn't expect to like it as much as I did. I love Overwatch, and you can tell there's some inspiration there, but I am not a fan of Counter-Strike. And that's where a lot of the gameplay of Valorant's taking inspiration from. You know, like the gunplay is very disciplined. You have to like know spray patterns, and it's very tough, and it like really tested my patience. If I didn't have friends to play with, I probably would have dropped it, but I have played it every night. I find it insanely enjoyable. It's sort of what I wanted from Overwatch in a way. I loved Overwatch. I put like 300 hours into it. So it's not like I was unhappy with Overwatch, but Overwatch was a lot of chaotic hero action, which was exactly what it needed to be. But I also wanted a more competitive element that really like slowed things down. And Valorant did that to a T. You know, I love the economy system of like getting kills, getting money, which Counter-Strike has done already. But I guess what this game is to me is it brings to the table some personality and some abilities that just Counter-Strike couldn't do. Like Counter-Strike to me looked like, I get why it's popular, I see why people like it, but it just looked too bland, for lack of better words. Where Valorant just had enough spice in it to really pull me in, and I've been playing it and enjoying it a lot. It's kind of came at the perfect time because, like I said, I just finished up like a 150-hour story, and I just don't have an interest in playing anything other than a multiplayer game or like a game on my Game Boy, like something nostalgic. Nothing that I have to make this big analytic piece on. And like I said, it's perfect for, you know, I was working on that huge Persona project. You know, we have like a 17-page script for it. It's not all me, by the way, but it's been a lot of like managing that. So I just need something that doesn't demand focus and analysis. And so that game has been perfect both in my life in general, but also in an enjoyment stance. I've really liked what it's offered so far. So I would suggest it. It's free. I would definitely make sure you play with friends though, because playing with random people, anytime I've done that, it's been awful. Yeah, you just got to deal with some really rude people who just love to flex, and it's so annoying. All right. Anything else, Karak, before we dive into the big PlayStation 5 reveal event? He's pondering.
Do we want to cover the news story prior or after the event? The one we talked about right before we started.
Let's do after. Yeah, we'll grab news after because we'll know where we stand.
Then we're good. Yep, let's go for it.
Time. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, let us begin. We're going to go in announcement order, so the exact order the show went in, we are going to follow that very same pattern. And that begins with technically GTA 5, but let's be honest, who gives a shit? So let's move into the big beginning announcement, which was Spider-Man Miles Morales. Were you caught off guard by this? Yeah, same. I was like leaping out of my seat when this happened. I was so excited because I thought, this would be a great idea. For those who don't know, the marketing for this game has already been fucked up because at first they said it's like a remaster, so it would be the 2018 game with this attached to it. Then they called it an expansion. Now, and it's sort of been confirmed at this point, it's more of a standalone game. Along the lines of like a infamous First Light, like it's its own thing that you're gonna buy and download. It's a standalone game, but it's think of also Dishonored: Death of the Outsider. It is a part of the series. It's not going to be a full game. It is going to be a standalone title though, and so it'll probably, I'd imagine they'll ring you up $40, $30 for it, and it features Miles Morales, which is a interesting choice so soon when you think about it, because this does bring to light some major moments that happen in the story of Spider-Man PS4 from 2018. But I'm so thrilled about that. Now, I wonder if this is like, because they also announced Ratchet and Clank, which we'll talk about, but do you think they're getting a little Spider-Man out now because it'll be a while before we see a true sequel?
Yeah, they did announce yesterday. They wanted to make it clear they are not doing Spider-Man 2 in any way currently. So
okay. So yeah,
that was their own Twitter, who basically was like, we want to reiterate, this is Spider-Man for now. Like, we are not currently doing Spider-Man 2. And then they said something else about Sony. Not in a bad way, but they said something like, somebody said, do Spider-Man 2, and they're like, you need to actually talk to Sony about giving it to us again or something. Like, so I'm not saying that there's a negativity there. It's probably just like, hey, it's good, but we got other stuff. Mm-hmm. So
Ratchet and Clank seems to be the focus for them.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I'm excited for more Spider-Man. I wasn't necessarily excited about the way it looked, but that's new. That's next gen. You have to like know really what's going to be available on the technology. I don't know about his skills and his powers versus Peter, so that'll be fun to me to see like what if they do. Are they doing skills? See, I don't know as much about the Spider-Man mythology as everybody else, but I do know that like they're not exactly the same, and I'm hoping it's not just suit based for the DLC. But we'll have to see.
Yeah,
And then no co-op, which sucks. It would have been better if he had swung out, right? And then Peter had been like, I'm coming too, man, dude. Or whatever. But
it's funny you mentioned that, because when I saw Miles, I was like, oh, they're going to show like...
Right.
I thought that's where they were going to nail the co-op.
I would have killed.
Speculated.
If that... Yes, I would have killed. If that had come up, my Twitter would have shut down.
I imagine that's why they're waiting. I feel like they're going to... Like we suggested, they're going to combine the two and either make them like interchangeable, or I would say like... That would be a next-gen thing, like 2 Spider-Men in the same city. That's never been done before.
Yeah,
at the same time, controlled by separate people.
Require a lot to processing to that big of an area. But it'd be insane. It looks interesting. I can't wait. Dude, Spider-Man is just generally a very good AAA title. So to me, not DLC, what they're calling it, that's exactly good enough for me. I'm fine.
I agree. Yeah, I'm happy with it. I love the snow in the city. It reminds me a lot of what we saw in Into the Spider-Verse, where it was like snowing during that movie, for those who haven't seen it. And so they definitely were trying to invoke something there. I do wonder at what point in the story this takes place. Like, obviously it's after Spider-Man PS4, but how long after? I think we do hear Peter Parker right in the beginning, but we don't see him at all.
Right, that's what I was wondering too. Is like how they're handling the timeline.
Because if they're handling it like Into the Spider-Verse, then I mean, he didn't look much older, but like what happens to Peter Parker? Like, that's the first thing I thought of. I was wondering.
He didn't look much older though.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Doesn't that look like the same?
People were doing side by sides, and like he had a different haircut. He looked a little more mature. He looked better in general. Okay. And so I feel like it's probably like a 5-6 year gap would be my guess, just based off the photo alone. Maybe not even that far. It might have just been a redone model because it's snowing. So maybe it's like a couple months into the game.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, quick.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Sorry, real quick.
No, you're good.
To curb on what you were saying, I agree with you, because I don't know if they want to jump that far ahead with his story if they're going to then return to PS4 to Spider-Man 2, because you don't want to go too far in the future. Sorry, continue what you're saying.
No, ladies and gentlemen, when me and Karak talk over each other like that is the issue with like digital podcasts. It's just there's a latency, and like I was thinking Karak was about to just stop and I was gonna keep going.
Yeah.
So it's just
where really you both are like trying to figure out who goes first.
Yeah. All I was gonna really say is that I feel like Miles will play differently from Peter Parker, because if I remember correctly, I'd say I know my Spider-Man, but I don't know them like to a T. Miles is less of like the gadgetry and tech guy compared to Peter Parker, so he's not going to be using like Osborn technology to make stuff. I think it will boil down to the suits and what his suits can do. But obviously he'll have his own gimmicks. The suits were like the best addition to Spider-Man PS4, because like each of them had their own play style. I think you tapped on something a little bit. The idea of like a skill tree being in that game seems like a,
or a fight style at minimum being.
Yeah. Different. Oh, for sure. That has to be different. When you said skill tree, it got me thinking of like Far Cry New Dawn, which I know is not like the best example of a standalone game, but that did have a full on skill tree compared to Far Cry 5, which just had perks. So I was thinking maybe they'll do something along those lines to give him some sense of progression and unlocking stuff that maybe is unique to him compared to Peter Parker. Because I doubt they're going to make you play as like an amateur Miles Morales in the sense of like how he fights, where it's not like he's all clumsy and stuff. I think that'd be kind of strange.
Welcome to another 2-hour tutorial for it. Yeah. And it's just like, why exactly is this happening? Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so I'm excited to see that. It comes out holiday 2020, so it's not far either. I thought when they were showing the brief teaser, immediately I was like, oh, this is going to be really far down the line because Ratchet's coming out this year, and it appears those dates have been flipped. And with that, Karak, shall we move into the next game?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Gran Turismo 7, this is all you. I feel like you're the only one here between the two of us who could have a takeaway from it. I thought it looked pretty, and I liked how, like, when you were driving, you could see, like, the hand kind of doing this for, like, the gear turns. I thought that was a cool detail that I'm sure was in prior Gran Turismo games. But as a guy who's into racing games more than myself, what did you take away from GT7?
Yeah, I mean, I think that racing games are usually the premier graphic presentation of a new console, it seems like. But I do also think that goes to show you how far PS4 and Xbox had come, because the jump was nowhere near what I that was one of the titles where I saw a lot of people going, whoa, this doesn't look as good as I thought. There was a lot of pop in. But to me, I was actually happy, because that indicated it was actually the game. Because I'm tired of all the tech, this is magical. It's like, you know what? Just let the game be the game, man. It's going to have issues. What they showed looked like a really cool GT game. So I was excited for it. I will say this, they obviously color graded it weird, because it is much more Forza saturated than dry sun baked looking the GT Sport is. So that to me will be interesting to see if that was simply HDR and how they showed it on YouTube, or if that's the graphic color base they go with. What's cool is you get it at your house. You can just turn down saturation. But that was something instantly noticeable. Trees looked a little greener than I think they really look. And there was something about it that they were going for like a little more. But I mean, dude, it's GT. It's a racing game. I'll play it. Like, I'm into that kind of stuff. So I don't know if I'm into fucking setting times though. Like, hey, first place is 1.000 seconds faster. I don't know if I have that in me anymore to be like, I'm going to spend 2 hours on this track. I probably won't be doing that. But yeah, it looked good. Graphically, it looked great.
What did you think of that whole map thing that they were showing off? I didn't know how to describe it, if I'm honest with you, but there was a point where they showed a map and like a woman was talking to you as you were selecting things.
That was actually where Forza Horizon. So people started comparing it in the chat. People were like, dude, that looks a lot like a Forza Horizon kind of map thing. That's my assumption, to be honest, because I think GT got a lot of flack for being, it's almost like GTA 4 versus Saints Row. GTA 4 came out and it was dire, and Saints Row was like, purple dildos. And it was like the fun. I think with Forza, there's a little bit more fun kind of stuff. And it seemed to me that that's what that was going for, was, hey, it's not going to be so solidly on these tracks. Maybe you can drive around. Maybe there's a location, which would be cool. Maybe it's multiple small locations.
Cool.
Especially with the SSDs, they might try to say, jump to this island of, in Hawaii or something, and then jump to Australia. So
cool. All right. I have nothing to add, sadly, so I guess we'll just continue on here. The next one I can comment on, and that's Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. For me, this was the first game that, I don't like to use the term, this is next gen, but this was the first game I saw where I went, okay, I can see some of the power being used here for the new consoles, because the trailer showcases all gameplay as Ratchet falls between multiple rifts and there's no loading screens, and he's going through like prehistoric times, futuristic city. There was a lot to take in, and then you see a female Lombax at the end. There was a lot there.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, it really was, and I was super excited about that. And then they showed a lot of gameplay. I'll admit, it looks great.
Sorry, I spilled my pop. Continue.
Oh, did you really?
Continue.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just a little bit. Continue.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right. It looked a little stiff at times, because the shooting allowed aiming in more so than prior entries, and there was less of the kind of, you always get into a rhythm with the Ratchet and Clank game where you're strafing, you're running to the side, you're shooting, and anytime someone shoots at your feet, you do the side flip.
Yep.
There was a little bit of that there, but you saw Ratchet like using his tool to like pull him into a new rift, and it would like zip him around the level. He had dashes. We've seen dashing before, but it looked like they were really honing in on a mobile Ratchet. But overall, the game looked like a blast. They showed off, I think, 4 different weapons. One was a weapon that like turned enemies into plants, and like you could see the grass coming up from the ground. But like I said, the biggest thing to me was there was a lot happening on screen, and whenever there was an environmental transition, it just, boom. There wasn't a load time. It just kept you looped in. So to me, this was the first game. I was excited about Spider-Man PS4 because I was like, what? Oh my God, like more Spider-Man already. But with this, I was like, wow, this looks like a true PS5 game in a lot of ways. Not like, oh, we couldn't do this on PS4. They could, but I think that like the environmental transitions are something that would have had to been sacrificed for sure.
Gotcha.
Are you a Ratchet and Clank fan at all?
Dude,
Outside
yeah,
of, like,
the oh, well, not outside there. To be honest, man, I wasn't a huge Sony fan back then, but the reboot was fantastic. Like, that game is insane. This one, I would agree with you, but I actually feel like it was overused. So, you are not old enough to remember this, but when they first figured out how to do lens flare on a camera in a game, the little lens flare, there were games that were actually putting 2 lens flares as if there were 2 suns because they were so excited about the technology of putting lens flares in.
Gotcha.
And so I was watching the battle, and I wasn't sick or anything, but I felt like sometimes it was probably just them telling the player who's recording the, footage, hey, use this a lot. But I was like, there wasn't a moment for me to set my feet and look at a spot and enjoy the spot in that trailer. Does that make sense? So, because they were jumping between worlds. So my hope is that was purely the wow factor, and that it's a little bit more solid. Because when he was solid and shooting some guys that were turning into what looked like paper fucking pinatas, they were like shredding. That was more my style. The jumping warps was great, but the idea of also getting lost quick, I was sitting there going, whoa, if there's a couple worlds, there's going to be players going like, I don't remember what corner of what world this icon is. So I was overthinking it a little bit when I was seeing that trailer, but overall that was probably on the entire PS5 event was probably the only time I saw something where I was like, yeah, with a normal hard drive, that would be pretty hard to do. And I like the effect for sure.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, when you say like getting lost, are you saying because he was always like pulling himself into rifts, let's say a puzzle or getting to some part of the world had to do with that? Like, it's very easy to just get confused. Is that, I just want to make sure I understand that right.
So like if you took KOTOR and say you have a jungle planet, a desert planet, and a water planet, and you pretend and you transcribe those on there. I just mean lost as in, like, let's say I need a weapon and I'm in the middle of a battle and I'm like, wait, was the weapon on the forest planet or was it on the ice planet? And then jumping to the ice planet and being like, fuck, it wasn't on the ice planet, it was on, and that kind of stuff, especially depending on how much it's used during those quick moments. Because at the starting, somebody counted it and was like, dude, in like 12 seconds, it was 16 locations. And that's just chaos at some point. That's too much. But then later it shows the part on the metal and a metal ground. He's like in a technological area and he's just he's not jumping all the time and he's shooting. That all looked fine. So I just get worried that, like, if there's too many transitions and too many changes, I almost won't get the ability to enjoy what they've built. Because the changes because of that, the memorization of like where something is, especially if they're large worlds, Maddie, that's another thing. If all these are like large platforming worlds, I mean, imagine like in Mario 64, if you were able to jump in between worlds, it'd be cool, but there would be times where you're like, wait, where is that one mushroom that I needed, to do this? That was the only thing I really noticed. And it was really just the trailer. I think
the rift pulling is probably just like set pieces within level. I don't know if they directly pull you into like a full-on other planet.
That could be true. That could be true too.
I think that's still controlled through like a menu. I would imagine that would
like a hub.
Sense. Yeah, and then like the transition to that planet's quick, and then you can go there.
I would be great with that. Totally fine with that.
I imagine they wouldn't make a big design flub like that where mid combat you pull yourself into the.
That's what I thought I was seeing, because the one time he jumps in and runs around, but of course you don't see how much he can run around. So exactly what you said. Hopefully it's not a lot, and then you're talking awesome stuff like bringing a monster in to grab a dude and from a jungle planet.
I think they're gonna play with that a little bit more. Where
hopefully
when you pull the rift, it's not just to move around. Like, you're gonna pull a rift, but this is gonna be the ice rift, and now you have like I don't know, like a Yeti coming out from there.
Exactly.
That'd be
Wind
awesome.
blowing in, and that'd be
Yeah.
great.
So
that'd be awesome.
They could really tinker around with that. I'd be excited to see more.
Those
on
guys
that.
know what they're doing too.
Yeah, after
Right.
I mean, the thing is there's very few games like where I was leading into launch, such as Spider-Man, thinking to myself, oh, they've got it, right? Like they've got all the tools. The story I was concerned about because they've never really told a story that's moved me. When I say moved, I don't mean like it's changed my life, but I feel something.
Been interesting enough for you to feel something.
Yeah, they've done fun kid-like things with Ratchet where you feel for Ratchet, but not in like a true connection. He's just like a childhood icon to me. So, when it comes to gameplay, I totally trust them. I know they know what they're doing. That's always been their specialty, unless EA got involved with Fuse. Then even
Fuse was rough, man. I bring up Fuse. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's one of the first games of theirs I reviewed, and I was not kind to that game.
I don't blame you. Yeah, man. It's funny. They don't shy away from anything. Their Twitter account promotes like all their games. So they did Resistance, and then like they even had Fuse photos up there. They don't even pretend it doesn't exist. I'm like, bravo. Like, good for you guys.
Yeah, good for you guys.
You don't put your head in the sand just because the game didn't review that well. That's cool. All right. Let's move on to our next game. This one comes from Square Enix, Project Athia. Now, there were rumors about this for a while that Square had an exclusive game for PlayStation 5. And originally, it was supposed to be Final Fantasy 16. Everything that the leaks were saying and the rumors were saying was entirely accurate about what it looked like, what it was going to be, who you were playing as. But the difference was it was unnamed. It's just Project Athia. And Square loves that because they named Octopath Traveler. I think it was called like Project Octopath or something like that. Like they gave it that name when they revealed the Switch. So, that's the thing, man. I imagine this was supposed to be Final Fantasy, but that probably would have been a little too dangerous. What did you make of Project Athia, though?
Not a lot, to be honest. This was the one where I just couldn't tell. You were talking about the naming. Maybe they do the thing where they call it Project Athia now, and then they later go Final Fantasy Project Athia or something.
They might. It's very well possible.
Yeah. I didn't know anything about a Square exclusive, so that's cool. It was too early, if that makes sense. Like, there wasn't a lot that I could, like, latch on to. I'll just say, they made a big deal about the dragon at the end, but it flashes out. It was too hard for me to tell what it was doing. But overall, like, the art style, I'm behind. But there wasn't... I need to see more of that one. Like, but there was nothing about it that made me go, where some games we're going to talk about for sure made me think that. This one, I was just like, okay, cool. I'm interested.
Yeah.
And it looked good graphically.
I couldn't take much away from it either. There were like werewolves. There was, flying sections. There was a lot happening.
The flying sections, though. Yeah, those look cool. Yeah, those look cool.
There was a lot happening real quick. So it was quite hard to take anything away from it. The art style, if you will, immediately reminded me of Final Fantasy 15. So
it is Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, so wouldn't be shocked if this had something to do with Final Fantasy or was supposed to. And hopefully it doesn't play like Final Fantasy 15, if I'm honest with you all.
Man, we laughed at you day before yesterday in the voice chat because I was like, dude, I like Final Fantasy. Yeah, because I was like, I like Final Fantasy 15. And we were talking about it, and I was like, and Matty fucking just doesn't like the combat at all. And we were all just sitting in there, and I was like, I don't know, fucking Matt's got an issue with the combat of Final Fantasy 15. And then it dawned on me, Final Fantasy 15 has something that you have disliked in two games. You do not like the icon, and Sekiro had the icon.
Yeah,
it's got the big icon in the center of the screen. Not that that's affecting. There's other things wrong with it, but it happened to be that we brought it up. We brought up pictures, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" I can actually see why graphically also that's bothersome. Like it doesn't, and there's also not. Great
people. I'd say at least Sekiro is more of like a reading the player or not the player, but the person you're against.
The person you're against.
Where Final Fantasy 15, like when you put the big square button in the middle, that's like a quick time event to me. So it's just, I don't know, holding circle.
Yeah, no, it is.
Press square again to counter. It just, it bugs me, and I've made that clear on this show. So, all right, let's move on.
And so people listening, I wasn't saying we teased Matty. I was saying we were laughing.
If you did, I like
at Matt. We didn't. We didn't. Well, and I would say that. No, we were laughing at you because I couldn't figure out why you disliked both of them, and especially Final Fantasy 15. And then when they brought up the thing, I was like, oh, I don't like that in Sekiro.
I get that, though. They're like,
No.
oh, he doesn't like 15's combat because he's got to be a guy who likes Sekiro. Like, he has to like the more interactive combat where you're really, like, just lining up with your opponent, you're circling each other, and then you're, well, he doesn't
I think
really...
we also brought up that you weren't in love with 7. And then we were talking about that, and we were talking about the differences in combat per each Final Fantasy, which is a video all its own.
Yeah. 7 Remake has...
also different.
Like, it has good combat, but it doesn't have good build diversity. And that's just the RPG lover in me speaking. Just because you could say, like, oh, Barrett can be a white mage, but I don't know. By the time he's like a decent white mage, the game's already over.
Right.
And it's not fun to replay and, like, make a black mage Cloud. It doesn't play like that. It's supposed to be more actiony, and that it works that way. It's just not like an RPG. I like that game more for its characters and story. I think it's really rewarding to be invested in its story. It treats the player right when there are big reveals or arcs that develop.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Next game is Stray. This is a game that's I'm actually going to have to read GameSpot's description because I don't think I could describe it well at all. They say, Annapurna Interactive revealed a robot-focused game called Stray set in a world where humans have died off. Cats, however, are still in abundance, and the robots appear to be replacing humanity in their old roles. It's a neon-infused aesthetic, and the adorable kitties wear backpacks. It's coming in 2021. So... a unique concept for sure. What do you make of playing as a cat on the PS5?
I'm fucking into it.
Okay, cool. I like the idea that humans are gone and robots have replaced them.
Kitty Chronicles is what I called it when I saw it. I was like, Kitty Chronicles, man, I'm fucking there. Like, the graphics, I don't know what's CGI and what's gameplay, but it's like the art aesthetic look cool. And the idea that there's no humans, I think, could change a lot of, like, how you set up the world and stuff like that. So, I mean, Black Sad, and it's a puma / cat looking dude who's a detective in a world with animals. And I dig that stuff. As long as I don't like furry kind of stuff where it's like comical.
Right.
But I sort of dig.
I'm not sure.
Oh shit. Sorry. Turn off my Alexa. I sort of dig that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah, I liked what I saw with it. I'm curious why you play as a cat, or like why the cat's the core of this all. That's kind of what has my attention most. It's like, all right, so humans are gone, cool. Robots have taken place, sure, makes sense. So why am I playing as a cat with a backpack?
Cats with backpacks. That's a logical jump.
How do you get to that? I don't know, but maybe you're a human who transforms into a cat. Maybe that's it, or a cat who can turn into a human. On the other end of the spectrum.
Or ancient Egyptian, where cats could take human spirits, like souls. All humans might be gone, but they're now infused in the kitties.
Imagine that. I have no idea what to expect, but anyway, Stray looks interesting. Not super hyped for it, but aesthetically, sure, I can lend you my interest. After this was a really big one, I felt. It was Returnal. This comes from Housemark. Once again, I'm gonna read the description from GameSpot because I feel they do a good job putting it into words. A brand new franchise from Sony was shown during this event. Developed by formerly arcade-focused Housemark, Returnal features a crash landing on an alien planet where the protagonist keeps reliving the same events, including her death over and over again. The planet, however, changes every time she dies. So, for those who don't know who Housemark is, they made Resogun, which launched with the PS4 back in 2014. They also made Alien Nation, if I remember correctly. Alien Nation was inspired by Hellfighters. Hellfighters was like a really tough 4-player co-op game, extremely fun. Like, you can really up the difficulty in that game and accidentally team kill. It's very intense, but very, very, very fun. But anyway, they made a game inspired by that called Alien Nation, where it's a similar thing, but more futuristic and more mission structured. Anyway, my favorite game from them is Resogun. It's sort of this game where you're in like a ship going around a planet, and it's, as the description read, more arcadey. But this was like a huge leap in production values and just how much they've put into the game. Like playing as a human, running around with like guns and shooting gigantic boss monsters. Like, what did you make of it all? I was really impressed with what they brought to the table. It sounds like in concept it's going to be kind of like roguelike, if you will, like procedurally generated, where it's going to kind of take that route.
Yeah, a little world change.
Every time the world's different. I feel like that plays into that. But what do you make of it?
It felt like Mass Effect Andromeda's multiplayer. So that's what it looked like to me. I thought it was a Mass Effect side story or something when I was seeing the chick. The name is horrible. I want to just get this out there. Guys, start figuring out your game names. Returner, like, dude, you're done. You're done. Like, you've checked out creatively. But overall, I liked it. I will say this. I said it in your Discord yesterday. I might be coming to the end of my desire to play a cyclic game. A game where you die and blah, blah, blah. It's like Dark Souls. Whenever you or I get a PR announcement, they're like, it's the Dark Souls of cooking simulators.
We get those a lot, yeah.
Oh, dude, you can hear me. I will say it out loud. I'll be like, and make a sound. So another cyclic game has to offer something. And I will say kudos to them, because I actually feel not the planet. That wasn't the thing. The combat actually looked like there was enough going on that if that's good, I would play it. And that's pretty rare for me, because I am sort of done with those games. So the special effects off the creatures when she was shooting it, when she's like, the planets become me and the creature jumps on her, I was like, yeah, I don't care about all the fucking that story bits. But when she was shooting the big thing and there were like cool special effects and it looked like a Mass Effect multiplayer, that looked fun. Like it looked like something I would want to check into. I like them. Those guys know how to do action, by the way. I've never seen them do this kind, but
exactly. That's why I'm excited.
They do know action.
They do, for sure. And I wonder how much they're going to carry their arcadey history into this. You know, I doubt they're going to have like a point meter. It looked very serious. So
it did.
I just wonder, are they going to like do it in a sense where you're on this new world where there's tons of creatures, so you're going to have to fight off like 80 of them at the same time. Like how are they going to bring that feeling? Because that's their DNA, right? Like they've made those games their whole studio lifetime. However, perhaps they are going to ditch it because those games aren't going to keep them in business. It's very well possible. So,
yeah, they were in trouble. Somebody did a video on them, a motion like BBC, and because I was asked if they could use my review footage. It was called House Marquee something, but it was a full-on like television show for like an hour about small companies. Where are they? Germany?
I'm actually not sure.
Okay, but they're in a place where the state helps developers, but they were talking about money-wise, and then I remember them posting that they weren't doing well a couple times financially. I think this is the way to do that. Is to jump into something like this. You were asking though, how are they going to try? I think you were saying, how are they going to translate top down into third person? That is interesting. Like 80, like you said, because top down is 80 guys. It's 360 degrees. Like, how do you translate that to third?
You could literally have them come from all angles at that point. So it's hard to say if they even want to do that.
Right.
You know, like I said in my original point, I feel like it's very well possible they say, you know what, we don't really need to hit them with a ton of arcadey stuff. Yeah, like this is something different, and I think that's what they need to stay alive, right? Because I remember listening to, I want to say Sacred Symbols, and they were talking about Housemarque and how they were going through financial tribulations, and so I think that's something that can really help them out. Because if they do this right and they make a lot of money, then maybe they rise to some of the more prominent first-party studios for Sony. Next game was one I really didn't care about. My stream and I were kind of making a joke, looking for the E for Everyone launch title. Like what is what is PlayStation going to use to sell it to the kids, pretty much. And Sackboy Big Adventure appeared. It's developed by Sumo Digital. It is a 3D platformer rather than 2D, which is a difference. I don't know what to say, man. What did you make of it?
I felt a lot of the games were a little were more kiddie than I was expecting. This one, at least graphically, it had 4 players, and I like Kung Fu Chaos, which is a Xbox original top like game like that. But dude, I'm not a Sackboy fan. I'm sorry, that is the most uncharismatic character I've ever seen in my life. And I know people love that character, but man, it didn't work for me then, and it does not capture me.
Same.
So seeing that footage was like pretty much silence in our stream. Okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that one is artistically and gameplay wise is not something.
I just remember sitting there like watching it. Like I could put myself back in my shoes now, and I was like, have you ever looked at a screen and your eyes are watching, but you're not like thinking? You're not.
Oh, for sure.
Like you're not there. That's where I was. Like I just my brain left my body for the moment and just took a rest. I was looking at it and I was like talking. I think all I kept saying was like, "Oh, this is probably the E for Everyone game," and just like watched. I was like, "Now's a good time to passively rest."
Yeah.
For more exciting things. So I'm with you on that. Nothing more to add there, I guess. But we can talk a little bit about Destruction All-Stars. So this is a action. Sorry, as I talk, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pounding in all the timestamps for literally every game we're talking about this episode. So if you see me looking away a lot, that is exactly why. Anyway, Destruction All-Stars comes from Lucid Games. It's like an action sports title where there's like a destruction derby almost. You have cars crashing into each other, but then they show bits of gameplay where you're out of the car and like someone puts C4 on top of the car, blows it up. I gotta be honest, I thought of you when I saw this game. I thought that this would be something you'd really dig. Is that an accurate assumption?
Yeah, I was the only one though.
I see. I thought
in my stream. I thought you'd like it because it looked like Death Row or whatever.
Yes!
One, yeah.
I said that same thing.
Because when the person ran, I was like, Maddie will like, and I said it in my stream, I'm like, oh, Maddie's going to like this. But I personally didn't, other people told me they were like, this is the worst game they showed, which I think there was much worse stuff they showed. I thought this, yes, they're going for the Rocket League kind of thing. The idea of like maybe your car explodes and you have to run back to a spawn point, but maybe you can do damage. I mean, he was jump kicking other people, so I was like, man, that could be that gets you out of the car. And they looked graphically like Overwatch. They had some chick had some little bit of like hitching or get along, and the dude, has got his little graphics going on. I personally thought it looked like it might be a really fun group game. We'll just have to see. But I love the fucking arena damage stuff that can happen. That one was a huge fan blade. Yeah, so there's like arena damage locations, and one of them is like this massive saw blade, and it cut the car in half. And I was like, to me, that actually looks like it might be a really enjoyable time with friends. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is I remember Rocket League. When that came out on PS Plus, I remember downloading it saying like, oh, let's see what this is. And it was just knocking around a soccer ball, as many people know, with your car. And I thought the idea of having cars crashing into each other, kind of like Burnout, but then you can get out of the car and like fight each other, and having like, if there's power-ups around the map and there's an environmental interaction. This was one that really stuck out to me. It looked like a ton of fun. I really want to see more on it. I would love to see that game in action. It struck me as one that we'll probably see more soon. Out of a lot of the trailers there, this one looked the most, one of the more like complete, like true gameplay all the way around. And I understand why people are getting tired of that art style, kind of that Fortnite, Overwatch, Valorant. There's been a lot within the last number of years of like that style of art, and so I get why it's a little tired and it can push people away, but I try not to let that dilute the offering of like the explosive gameplay that
exactly. If the gameplay is good, I mean, it's great. That's fine.
Well, that's the thing. It's supposed to, I feel like those types of games work well with that art style. Like it's supposed to be like a colorful explosion is how I define it. Like you're seeing your reds, your blues, your purples, your greens. Like it's all over the place.
It's saccharine. It's eye candy. I mean, that's what it is. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I like it. I thought that game looked great, and I can't wait to see more from it. All right. Next on the list is another great one. This is really when the show started cooking up because we were starting to see like a lot of unique new IP and things that really represented everybody. So this game was called Kena? I think it was called Kena, Bridge of Spirits. And this one was, it was really neat because I saw like her use a staff and then turn it into like a bow and arrow and shoot spells from it. And I've always said to my friends, like, man, that would be such a cool MMO class if you had, I called it like a mage archer, where you were able to like hold just a staff, but then you turn it into kind of a bow and arrow. Anyway, GameSpot describes it as an adorable adventure game developed by Ember Lab. Kena, Bridge of Spirits features Pixar-like visuals, magical abilities, and enemies. Platforming and discovery will play a major role, as will herding up small, cute creatures. There will also be dangerous monsters that stand in your way. So this game also took a little bit of inspiration from, what was it? A Munch's Odyssey. Because you have, like, in Munch's Odyssey, you could round up fuzzles. For those
Lemmings
who don't know.
is what they look like.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah, man. And like, if you round up the fuzzles in Munch's Odyssey, you can command them what to do. You can tell them to attack, wait, or whatever, and they help you out in combat. So like Munch can come in with this, like, he can drink this zap soda, and if he does, he can electrocute enemies while the fuzzles are like ripping them up. And so it's like that pseudo teamwork involved. Or really isn't pseudo, it's just teamwork straight up. And it works out really well in Munch's Odyssey, and this seemed like a more action-packed, involved version of that. So for me, it kind of evoked a little bit of nostalgia. But did you like what you saw with this one? Did it catch your attention at all?
It was a game of the show for me.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's get into that. Let's hear why.
Well, I mean, dude, it showed her running through a huge world. There's one camera angle where she's running. There's like a jungle and swamps, all this stuff. It looks like Cameo too. This Cameo was the old 360 game where you could transform
rare, right?
into. Yeah, it was rare. And its combat looked good. I love the staff transform weapon. It was the only one that I felt was like, and this is just me, but I just felt like a lot of the stuff was just retread, like whatever. And that one was the only one that made me go, wait, what? And her animation was insane. There are parts where her animation is, it sounds like GameSpot said the same thing, like Pixar level. There was some friggin' awesome animation in that. So
yeah,
that one was the one that got me, like, because, and yeah, it could probably be done on a 360. Resolution wouldn't be as good, but I mean, it grabbed me like an old Rare game would. Like an old Rare game would make me go, whoa, what the hell? Like, what's this world? I was very interested in that world. You described I didn't know about the monster, raising cute, battling with cute monsters, that kind of thing. I didn't know that was a thing, but it's just from what I saw, it also looked more complete, which is what you mentioned about the racing one as well. Those two were like back to back, and they both had more like cuts. Everything seemed like it had been prepared a good deal prior, and that maybe the game's a little farther along.
Yeah, for sure. Because I remember at first when they had the two brothers in the beginning saying, like, we're both film directors or whatever.
Right.
I was like,
yeah, here we go.
Graphical showcase. And then they showed that. And at first I really wasn't into it. But then as the trailer picked up and went on, I thought to myself, man, like, this looks great. So yeah, man, that game really stuck out to me as well. And I think it caught a lot of people. What made me really happy was, and I know Twitter doesn't represent like real life and worldwide interest, but I was really happy to like sign on to social media and seeing a lot of people talking about these smaller games, arguably more than some of the big ones.
Arguably more.
Yeah. Like I saw people talking about Kena quite a bit. There's a couple more we're going to get into down the line that I saw a lot of discussion on. So yeah, this game looks great. And once again, cannot wait to see more. All right, so the next one is also what I meant by there was sort of a game for everybody. It's called Goodbye Volcano High. Definitely not my style of game, but Sony, you could really tell, like I said, they wanted to make a game for everybody here at this showcase, because one thing they've sort of backed down from is like visual novels and like adventure style games. So I'm just gonna read GameSpot's description, because if I told you what it was, I don't think it would sound believable.
Do it justice, yeah.
Starring fantasy creatures in a hand-drawn art style, Goodbye Volcano High is an emotional game set in the end of an era. It will arrive in 2021. It will also feature unique and indie-style soundtrack if the trailer is accurate. And so one thing it does not mention here, it's a starring fantasy creatures. It's like these dinosaurs, but you're like dinosaurs going to high school. It's very different. I don't know much about it. It didn't really speak to me that much, but I was just, it was just good, I guess, to be like, okay, so there's a game for people who would like something like this. And that was kind of it. Did you take it anyway? I can't speak right now. Anything from it?
That it creeped me the fuck out, and I didn't want to see any more of the trailer.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. That's one of the few games where I've noped out while watching it. I was like, I didn't like the crocodile look face or pterodactyl looking faces. I didn't like. It's just that is not my thing. And when it was going, I was just the entire time going like, what in the fuck in my? And then finally, after a while, I just sort of checked out. I was like, it's one of the, you know how an art style might not work for you. That art style does not work for me.
Same. No, I was the same way for sure.
Is that an anime?
Shocked. No, not that I've heard.
It's not an anime because people knew. In my
well, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I just thought you'd know because you do know more animes than I do. I know the name of like 2.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. I was more so shocked that like PlayStation had a game like that during their big console reveal.
Right.
I don't mean that with disrespect. Just I was surprised. Like,
yeah,
I wouldn't say, like pleasantly surprised because I wasn't invested in the game, but I was like, wow, they're really trying to represent anyone and everyone here. And I think it's a good look. Even if the game's not up your alley. But like I said, I don't know much at all about it. All right. Let's take a look at the next game on the list, which is Oddworld Soulstorm. So I am a huge Oddworld fan, as a lot of you know. I talked about Much as Odyssey just mere moments ago. Oddworld Soulstorm is coming to PS5. It looks like kind of what we'd expect from a current Oddworld game based off New and Tasty. Like it's 2D. I should say 2.5D really.
2.5, right.
Yeah. It's very colorful compared to past Oddworld titles. Usually they're more grim and in tone as well as color palette, but this one was very bright. And not in a bad way. It looked, what's the word? A mixture of like mature and dark. Really dark. Like one thing that for those who don't know anything about Oddworld, like they showed right at the end of the trailer, like Mudokons always have like stitches on their mouth, and I forgot what it means for their group of people, but at the end you see Abe taking like a razor to the stitches in his mouth, and I was like, oh my god, that's huge. That's a huge moment. After all these games, the fact that he's about to cut them off, that's crazy. I forgot exactly why they had them, and I'm curious to go back and find out. But yeah, I was really excited about this. So, what did you make of Oddworld?
Yeah, the same. I like. Did you notice like there were? That's actually I had mistaken what game you were talking about when a couple minutes ago when you were talking about the other one. I thought you were talking about this one because at some point he's got like 25 of those dudes with him. And they're getting smashed up and fallen, and it's pretty dark. Yeah. And it's always been about the gears in the machine kind of thing. Like, there's always been starvation and politics and, gears in the machine politics about, like, what it's like to work in slave mines. Like, it's dark. And there was one scene where there's, like, on a bridge or something, and there's some crawling up that are getting smashed, and you're just like, damn. People are getting ruined in this game. It's the only thing I would say is, and this is just my own personal, I think that they did a good job with Stranger's Wrath, and they're not revisiting that. And I think that the 2D, there were so many games that looked platformy, whatever, that I think that one might have looked better if it was in different company or if it was 3D, because it just felt a little bit like an HD version of one we had already, like, not one we had already seen, but, a world we'd already visited. Yeah, familiar. Yeah. I mean, on the other hand, I'll play it, so.
Oh, I will too, for sure. It's weird that you mentioned that because it's true. You went from 3D platformer with Munch's Odyssey to a shooter with Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, which was excellent. It had a good story too, but it was like easily the most accessible entry in the franchise. And then they went to New and Tasty, which was like a remake of I forgot the name of the original Oddworld. Not
Exodus. Odyssey. It's not Odyssey. It was Abe's Odyssey. Abe's Exodus.
Abe's Odyssey. Thank you.
Abe's Odyssey. Yeah.
And then I think Soulstorm was supposed to be Exodus as a remake, but I remember this game was announced like 2016, and they invited me to do like voice lines for the game, and it went off the map for a while. And now they're sort of back again, like re-revealing it and marketing it again and getting ready for launch, it seems. And I'm thrilled, not just because like I'm involved with the game, but as like a lifelong Oddworld fan, like it just looks great. But it's very interesting how they've it looks on the outside like regression, but maybe they're just returning to what they're comfortable with, what works for them.
Yeah, it's odd
because it's taken them 4 years to get that out, and I'm not saying that 2D game is easier than a 3D game, but I would imagine just design wise it's got to be easier to make.
It also looked very rough. It was dropping a huge number of frames. It was very low frame rate and stuff like that, so that's even more surprising because I didn't know this is the one you were talking about. I didn't know this is a 4-year. It seems like it's not very far. Maybe there was a restructuring. There may have been where it was like, because you can tell that dude doesn't like Microsoft. He's had nothing but bad things to say about them. So the idea that maybe Sony came in and said, do it exclusive for us and we'll help you get your shit in a row, which seems to be his issue. Not dissing on him. That's just, creatives sometimes they have one thing that is their issue. And so, I mean, who cares? I don't care what platform it's on. It looks cool to me. It's an Oddworld game. I'll play it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, when I talked to him, he, I remember him not being a fan of EA and him not especially being a fan of Xbox. And those were during the Odyssey day, the Munch's Odyssey days, which is maybe why he wants to go back to basics with what's it called? With Soulstorm. Next game on the list is one from our friends over at Bethesda, Ghostwire Tokyo. This was supposed to be a creepy game, if you will, and it turns out it's like a first-person karate, like the guy was doing jutsu signs with his hands, shooting spells out. There's obviously some otherworldly presence here. It's in first person, which is surprising for Tango Gameworks, who we've seen them do The Evil Within 1 and 2, which are both third-person survival horror titles inspired by the likes of Resident Evil. I really liked the first Evil Within game too. Wasn't so hot on. But what did you make of? I keep asking what did you make. I got to think of a new way to say it. Karak, how did you interpret the delivery of the trailer?
Jeez, what's happening? Well, I will say, just a heads up, I don't know if you got to check this out, but Evil Within 2, they did add that. They did patch in first person.
Oh, apologies. I forgot about that. Yes.
No worries. And if anybody watched my review, I wasn't in love. I got to say it's 10 times better with first person. It's legitimately far more atmospheric playing at first person. I just got, dude, so I wasn't happy with a couple of the videos, and this was one that I just felt the movement was off. Everything was off in that video. So I just take it as this is way early. Sony said we need some videos from different people, and what we got was that. I like the idea, but it didn't really do anything.
That's what I
here's what I thought it was. Mirror's Edge, but with a magic user. Because a lot of it felt like Mirror's Edge for some reason, except they didn't move very fast. Like the character's moving, and I swear to God, there's no head bob, which probably I should be happy about. But it was just the character was like, and then cast a gang sign in the air and cast a spell, and I was like, what's happening? So I'm a big fan of just being like, hey, their idea is what they showed us, and their idea of a magic using like horror / ninja, like first person game, Mirror's Edge kind of game, dude, I'm all for that. It's just what they showed did not impress me. What I got to see.
I get what you mean. It wasn't like impressive. I'm still curious about it. I still think it looks solid. Me too. But I almost feel mismarketed about it because
gotcha.
Yeah, not even because of like Akumi Nakamura said when she came on stage and she's like, it's very spooky. Like, not even that. The initial trailer, though, shows people disappearing, and it just gives off a vibe of this is a survival horror game. And maybe it is, and Bethesda has a knack for, like, in Dishonored, they show a ton of trailers of Corvo, like, chopping heads off and using all these tools and, like, blowing people up to show it's, like, an action-heavy game when Dishonored's really... I mean, you can play it whatever way you want, but it's really designed around stealth. And I wonder if this is the same way where we're showing all these clips of you shooting fire and, like, ripping cubes out of people's chests. Like, okay. But it's a much more maybe deliberate or it is creepy. Like, when those battles happen, it's before a moment where the anxiety's building up to something bigger.
Some of the enemies looked cool. You know, there was like what looked like a schoolgirl with a missing head. You know,
that creeped me out. Yeah. About that.
I just think that, you know, like, we're going to have to get accustomed to this is going to be a weird gen. It's going to be a very weird generation. And it's not going to be as, like, clear cut. And so sometimes these things will be shown way before they should. And I think with this one, that's how I took it. I was like, okay, whatever. You know,
yeah, it's supposed to come out in 2021. So
exactly right. Like, we don't even know how far along this footage was for the trailer. What I saw thematically was interesting. It's just that the mechanics were not there. But you know, what does that mean?
Yeah, we'll see in due time. There really isn't much to pick apart there, other than I didn't expect the magic. That for sure, I did not anticipate.
Oh yeah, admittedly, you know more than I do, so it didn't shock me as much. But then when I looked at my Discord, in my Twitch, people were like, "What in the hell is happening right now?" So I think you're more along the lines of what people were, like, shocked. Or not shocked, but like, what? What is this?
Yeah, I'd say shocked was a good word, because after it finished, I was like, that was really... I was Ghostwire Tokyo? Like, that's just... I guess it's my own fault. I envisioned, like, someone holding a gun. I thought they were going to do pretty much the Evil Within, but separate it. Like, if it was the Evil Within, but with, like, magic, that would actually be really cool. But
that would be really cool, yeah.
You know, maybe for another game, if this one doesn't work out. And also, for those who don't know, I made a whole video dedicated to this, but I want to know if you know, and if you don't, then what your opinion is, that this is a timed exclusive on PS5 along with Deathloop.
Yeah, they're timed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's 3 or 6 months.
Yeah, it's nothing insane, but what'd you make of it? Like, is that something that you were... I don't like to use the word upset, because, like, I made a video about it, but, like, I wasn't, like... upset. I was more so annoyed, thinking, like, these are brand new IP. Why? Especially when you look at
especially
Titanfall.
with Bethesda, now that I think about it, right? Because they don't need the money. Now that I think about it.
Not only that, but they're notoriously with Microsoft. And you look at Tomb Raider, you look at Titanfall, like, two games that were hurt really bad by console exclusivity, and one of them being a brand new IP. And I just feel like it's not... They might be getting money up front, but I don't think it's helping them. But what did you think of it all? Did you care?
Yeah, I didn't on those in particular, because they didn't show well. Like, if they did, right? It's almost like if your ex is dating a dude who looks like a doughboy, you're like, who gives a shit? But if she's dating somebody hot, you're like, son of a bitch. I gotta just start doing curls. So I'm, you know, like, those games weren't high on my list. I know they were for you guys because of the developers involved and stuff like that. So if you translated that to a different developer, I would certainly be like, oh, that sucks. But you know what? I know the business, and I know, and when something's timed, that even means, I know people get really mad about it, but dude, and you can, but my anger is for sort of real stuff I can affect. That kind of thing is just, it's a part of business. It is weird though. Like you said, it is weird. It's Bethesda, which doesn't, maybe Bethesda said, here are some smaller titles that we're not, like, I don't know what the term would be. We're not as behind as Starfield or as behind as whatever else they're working on. Maybe it was that. And Sony said, we'll front you some money.
It was such a weird choice, because I think Oblivion was the last time they did hey, this is going to be exclusive. Because that was 2006, and I think the 360 was the only game console that had that for about a year. Maybe Wet. I don't know if that left the 360 and went on the PS3. I can't recall. But they haven't done console exclusivity of any kind in a long while. And I imagine the reason both these teams went for new IP between Deathloop and Ghostwire was because Dishonored was underperforming, and Dishonored's story is also relatively complete. And they said they're going to go back to it, or that it's not on hiatus. So I imagine they plan to go back to it. And then the Evil Within definitely didn't perform well. So I imagine they started off these new series to just try to get something going. But if this was like your end game, I don't know if that builds faith and is a good game plan for the future. Like if you want to make a Deathloop 2, it may end up like Titanfall, where it just like the original that was exclusive outperforms the multi-platform release because it became so irrelevant to people when they found out it was timed exclusivity. Even if it's 3 months, 6 months, we know how fast the industry moves. It's not the end of the world. I never tried to portray it like that, even though I made fun of them a lot for it. But it's just that I think it's going to hurt them more than they realize, and I think consumers are quick to move on. There's so many games always coming out.
No, we that is, of all this, regardless of any agreement or disagreement people have about exclusivity, consumers move on. That is the one thing we can. I just don't think you can argue that.
No,
there's too much stuff. There's too much. I was on Ginger Prime's podcast, and I was like, dude, if I sat here with you guys and tried to tell you the names, just the names of every game that came out on Steam, there's 2,000 names. 2,000 in 1 month. Like, it's ridiculous, and that doesn't include your AA's and your AAA's. So yeah, we move on.
Yeah. All right. We move on as well, Karak. We move on to Jett the Far Shore. This is an interesting title. Sorry, as I do this, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I had to step away for a moment, and so I have to do math now while writing down the timestamp. So
math.
It's a little bit more complicated. Anyway, Jett the Far Shore. I actually don't really recall what this game is, so I'm going to go ahead and read the description. Developed by Super Brothers, Jett the Far Shore was shown during the reveal event. The world is shown as dreary, but a rocket fires into space and shows a series of satellites that appear to hold some sort of future for the planet. Hundreds of years later, a small ship flies to a much more vibrant land. I don't recall this at all. Do you?
Yeah, a little bit of it. I liked some of the camera angles and stuff, but it was one of those games that, like, I think its name and then what it showed really hurt it. Like, as in, like, you forgetting it. I think a lot of people, that is a terrible name, and it's like blah, the blah, blah. It doesn't take long for somebody to just move on from a game like that. It didn't, and its name doesn't capture what it is. So, like, there was, like, Journey is Journey. Like, the name is onomatopoeia, as in you see, you get what you're hearing. Journey, that is what it is. This game is just words, and I just don't think it panned out. And what they were showing was a little eclectic, like a little too art house, I think, for a lot of people. So I moved on from this one real quick. Like, I saw it and I was like, all right, whatever. You know,
I guess I did too, and didn't realize.
Yeah, you must have, even quicker than me. But I mean, it's like, dude, when they flash these games, we both like this. I don't think we can argue, other than the stupid ass intermission between everyone with the PlayStation X square
I thought it
circle.
was like building up to something. It was just
It's killing me. I think we can all agree that a lot of games were shown, but that means that in the middle, there's a high chance of you forgetting a couple things. You know, not sticking with you.
I agree. All right, math once more as we subtract from 21, and we get 14. All right, so next game is Godfall, Karak. Godfall. This was shown off at the Game Awards, and people found out that it was going to be on the PlayStation 5. We learned a little bit more. We saw it was, I guess the best way to describe it was really just like hack and slash. It looked very much like mash the buttons, attack the enemy. I was expecting something a little more slowed down.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean it's bad. I like the idea of what they originally described it as, which was like melee Borderlands. And it's being published by Gearbox, which was interesting. But I wasn't like over the moon on it, but I didn't hate what I saw. Did you like it at all?
No.
Okay.
That is the jankiest looking jank of all jank. It was rough. It was stiff. The combat looked bad. The collision detection looked bad. The animations looked bad. It looked way worse than the footage we saw prior. So I don't know if they got old footage or if we're just seeing, work in progress, which is totally fine. But I agree with you. I thought it was going to be a much slower kind of like paced out kind of thing. And instead, it was like, it didn't have any impact. Like if you look at God of War and you hit somebody, you're like, okay, I hit that dude. You look at Far Cry Primal, even though I love it, if you hit somebody with something, it's like Skyrim. You're like, nah.
You're like,
meh. Yeah, right. You're like, I'm not quite sure what happened. He's dying though, so I'm on the right end of this.
Mm-hmm.
And something about that game, dude, it looked really, really rough to me. And it stepped down from where I was, because I was originally going, okay, that could be my thing. It's got, God of War aesthetic to it, but also shiny chrome armor. Like, this could be pretty cool, but that trailer did nothing for me. Nothing.
Yeah, sadly, I'm in the same boat. I thought that if it was... See, when I think melee loot-based games, I do think of Champions of Norath, Champions Return to Arms.
Are those the ones that we've talked about before that are like the Forgotten
PS2.
Realms? Yeah, the PS. Okay, yeah, me too.
Great games, and just
yeah,
obviously inspired by Diablo, but I just look at those games and like that to me is what I want. And not that I expected that from Godfall, but if Godfall were to be like we brought the camera down more and brought you into the action closer, but it's still that same type of experience.
Mm-hmm.
Holy smokes! Because they tried to do that with here's another really niche series, but in the same kind of category is Untold Legends. There was like Warriors Code on the PSP, and there was
I don't
another.
think I've ever heard
Legends.
of those games.
Great games, same style of game. I don't know if it's by the same studio. I'd have to check, but very much inspired by those types of games, and I enjoyed those thoroughly. They have the class structure and everything. However, the third one was exclusive to the PS3 around its launch, and I think it was called Untold Legends Dark Kingdoms, and that was one that took the action from above and brought it over the shoulder. And so I was looking for something akin to that, not because of like nostalgia, but just I saw the potential and inspiration there. But when they really like slowed it down, I don't know, didn't stand out to me. Like you kind of said, it just did nothing. It was just there existing, and that was really it. All right, next game is going to be Solar Ash. We're going to head over to GameSpot to go ahead and read what Solar Ash is. From the creators of Hyper Light Drift, this was an indie game I actually never played. Solar Ash was announced for the PS5. The hostile world seems to reject the protagonist, and there are mentions of a void before the demonstration transitions to its gameplay, and it shall arrive in 2021. Karak, are you a fan of Hyper Light Drift at all? Did that game do anything for you?
Yeah, I liked Hyper Light Drifter. This one's called Solar Ash. I'm going to look this up real quick and verify. Okay. This is the one that turned into 3D when they started running, right? So this one I thought this was going to be, at first, a futuristic journey, because she goes to a bunch of desert locations and then goes to like 3D running straightforward. So I thought before they announced the name, this was like a journey, like as in the title Journey, like a sequel to it. The only thing I saw out of this that really impressed me or made me go, whoa, and nobody else seemed to agree with me. I guess I was by myself, but the end where the world flips upside down in the trailer. Oh, dude, I love that. I was like, because, okay. No. I can see that. I just liked it because I don't know if that means gameplay might have something like is the world, like how would that, they showed it for a reason. I'll just say that. Nobody renders something and then says that was fun, but we're not doing this. So there was render time. Somebody thought that through. But overall I wasn't super excited for it. I do like that. I liked some of the way like color wise it looked, but again, this was one more of those games that they didn't show enough for me to know what it was. It was like, here's a person running. I was like, okay. And then that was it. So,
we were talking earlier how like certain art styles don't work for us. And
Oh,
this is
yeah.
this is an art style that definitely when I looked up the images while you were talking, I was just like, yeah, this is the one I saw. And
I have a
wow.
question for you.
What's up?
Did you play Hob?
No.
Do you know what Hob? Do you know the one I'm talking about? Can you look it up and tell me if Hob would also not
All right, let's take a peek
interest
here.
you?
I'm thinking of right now Grow Home. I don't know if it looks like that at all, but
No, Hob looks like it's got that flat. It's really hard to describe.
I'm looking
man.
at the images now.
Is that art style? Like, is that yes or no for you?
This main character, actually, you know what? No, this doesn't look too bad.
Okay,
It's kind of like 2D with, it's got like an, not edge as in like attitude, but like the trees aren't like these kind of scattered branches. Like the branch goes straight and then almost like an L.
Yeah.
It's like very, I guess edged is really the best word. This doesn't look horrible.
Okay, cool.
Like
I was just
visually,
trying to figure out where you were visually. They don't look alike exactly, but when I saw this, the color scheme for some reason sort of reminded me of Hob when I first saw it. Not the gameplay or anything.
Gotcha. All right, next game is Hitman 3. Oh boy, Karak's nodding his head in satisfaction.
Dude, yeah.
I didn't expect this one. That was a nice surprise. Yeah. So they say this is the conclusion to the something arc. I forgot what it was.
America Assassination, right? Or something
yeah.
Assassination arc? Yeah.
Yeah, and the friggin' mission they showed, I was like, oh man, if this is the future of Hitman, I'm all about it. Like he was climbing outside like this skyscraper on pipes and stuff.
Dubai.
Yeah, it just I was thinking to myself, man, this looks cool. So I could really see them going crazy with some large levels in the next gen Hitman game. I was really excited to see this one. I admittedly though, I did not play Hitman 2, even though I said I was going to, and I've only played a little bit of Hitman Season 1, which I really did enjoy.
Man, you're missing out.
I know.
So much.
I know. Especially because Hitman 1, I played it episodically for I think like 2 or 3 missions, and then once they wrapped it up, they started going back and adding in
exclusive targets.
Yeah, and stuff like that where I was like, oh my god, like they just keep building this game. I thought they were going to do that, then they did Hitman 2, which was just a full game, and yeah, those are ones that I'm really missing out on, and I would love to go and play at some point.
Yeah, the Dubai thing looked awesome. Also, I don't know if you know this, but when you buy Hitman 2, it allows you to take the weapons from Hitman 2 back into the levels of Hitman 1 and reworks it, which I thought was pretty cool.
Wow.
Never seen that done in a game before.
Not retroactively. It's usually
retroactively, yeah.
Carrying over from the first.
It basically just takes 1 and remasters it to 2 and then also adds 2. It's pretty insane for the cost. Like it's actually mind-blowing, especially with the unbelievable amount of replay that game has with all of its challenges. It's insane. Like that game is so what's the term? Like it gets you on like a hamster wheel. But yeah, dude, it looked awesome. I mean, it did look, I hope he doesn't die. I like that guy, I like David. Dude, it's Hitman, and it showed Dubai, and he's on that fucking skyscraper, and the clouds are below him, and you're like, damn, son. Like, that actually looks strangely, not necessarily next gen, but like good. I don't know another way to describe it.
I feel like next gen is
awesome.
Not always going to translate into the scale.
Yeah.
In this situation, I think it will, but I think it's going to be more about what's within the level, like how many NPCs, how many options to kill. Like everyone's going to use it differently. I think right now, graphically, we're in a good place for the industry where I don't mind pushing things forward if you want to, but like there's only so far you can go before you're just making like photorealistic games. I just think that it would really be interesting to see these companies instead take that extra power and use it, sadly, in ways that you can't always see in trailers. Like Ratchet and Clank was really the only one we've honed in on during this entire talk, where you go, oh yeah, I can see like there's transitions and you're not loading the game and they are completely different and it's not a cutscene, it is gameplay. I think we're going to see more of that, but it can be only experienced while playing. It's very difficult to market. So sadly, games like even Hitman, you just go like, well, what's the catch? And maybe we don't know till we're in the level and we're seeing stuff that's considered spoilers, like, you know, the amount of targets or what weapons are available and the challenges within there. Like, it's just that type of stuff, man. I think it can get bigger in those ways.
Yeah, it looked cool. And I mean, also remember, these are the guys that made Sapienza in number 1 with like hundreds of NPCs, and then number 2 has the F1 race level, which is just
that one I always think of.
It's an unbelievable amount of NPCs, but it's not like Assassin's Creed NPCs that aren't doing anything. Like they're possible enemies, and so yeah, it's cool. But that's one game that's very high, like scored very high on my oh my god list.
Nice. Glad to hear it. All right. Next on the list, we have Astro's Playroom. All right, you're chuckling. I don't know anything about Astrobot, so did you take anything away from this?
No, Astrobot was the VR title that did very well and was a very good VR title, but I think they're sort of moving it into a normal game where maybe that charm won't work, because Astrobot was like one of those titles that when you're playing in VR, you're just happy because it's a full game in VR, or like it's a cool full thing in VR, but it's not necessarily absolutely special in and of its own right. So it was weird to see that become like an adventure. It was like Sackboy a little bit, where you're like, okay, what exactly is going to happen here? And it just showed him running around. That was another thing I noticed. Like, it was another game where it was like a character running, and then they were like, okay, check it out. And you're like, all right.
Trailer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't add anything to that. This one, though, it caught my attention. Little Devil Inside. This trailer had it all, man. It was funny. It was charismatic. It was intense. It had a little bit of sadness in it. Little Devil Inside is a action adventure game with a unique aesthetic, as well as plenty of mystical creatures, featuring a mix of stealthy exploration, direct combat, and even hunting wild creatures like dragons. There will be numerous settings, including frozen tundras and cities. At one point, they show your character has like a shield up, and he actually like parries into a stab when a creature lunges at him. So there is some depth to the combat, it seems. And it looks like you have this older man who's just living this luxurious lifestyle, and then you've got this younger kid who's just, because at the beginning of the trailer, he drags in a monster that he hunted, presumably for food. And then after that, it's like cuts out to him hunting, and then the old man's just like sleeping, and then it just goes back and forth between their lifestyles, and it looks like you're going to play as this kid who's just hunting for food, I guess, to live or whatever. I don't know how the story develops from there, but man, it looked interesting. It looked so
when he's shivering in the snow, and then or by the rock, and then it translates back to the old guy sleeping in his bed.
Yeah,
this is one of the issues they had with this. I don't think they translated a lot of the videos well, because it's hard to know what was going on. I couldn't tell if like this was the kid when the old guy was young, or if it's a kid who's like bringing him the stuff so he can live in this weird life. But there was that dichotomy, obviously, of somebody living inside of a place, warm, sheltered, and then the kid doing adventures in a fantasy world. And then it was like, is it like the old guy? I don't know. That was the problem. I don't really know what that was, but it looked cool. I was definitely into it, but it didn't know what I was into at the time.
Yeah, I imagine the old guy is like his own person, because in the beginning of the trailer, when he like brings the creature in through the front door, like the old man's standing there and they're like looking at each other. So I imagine that.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't remember that part. Okay.
Unless it's like the old man walking in and reflecting to something he did in his past life, which would be interesting. Or he goes to sleep and he dreams of a past life. That would also
it
be
looked,
a little bit
I mean, it like that kind of stuff is, I like Sexy Brutal too. Like any of those kind of weird games I'm into. And it looked good graphically. Like everything looked really solid. And it looked far along. Again, one of the few that looked,
Yeah. Next game is one that I don't know how people are going to feel about this one. It's called Bugsnax. It is a game where these bugs and creatures are made of food. So you have like a guy running around talking about his weenie hands and stuff. It was really strange and one of those games that was just not up my alley. I don't know about you.
Not at all.
Not at all.
It was, by the way, we were saying what games, like some games hit it off and some did not. That game did not. Its art style didn't hit it off. What I saw, the gameplay didn't hit it off. It just looked weird. I did like the song.
Yeah,
The chick
cool
singing about Bugsnax. Yeah, she's Bugsnax or whatever. I was like, okay, cool. But the rest, it was just not for me. Would be one of those titles.
I agree. All right, let's move on from this bad boy then. We've got, after this, the Demon Souls remake. It is real. It is happening. And it is glorious. There have been a lot of screenshots coming out of how this game looks. And oh my lord, it is delicious. I'm not even a diehard Demon Souls fan. I really like the game, but I just had trouble with it for some reason. And I don't know if it's because it was old, it was less refined. Part of it was because it was a lot more open because you had like the Nexus, so you could go to like a completely later level in the game, but that could be the right place to go if you were building correctly. So it was a little more difficult to figure out, and I just wasn't interested in it as much. But now knowing you got like a second chance to refresh, because I remember when the Demon Souls remakes first started coming out, like how revolutionary of a game it was, because it was like a callback to a time where games didn't hold your hand and when they weren't as easy, and it just really struck a chord with a lot of people. So I'm very excited for this game nostalgically at the least. Are you looking forward to this one at all? Do you hold any ties to the Demon Souls game at all, or is this like a new thing for you?
No, I think I'm pretty much exactly where you are with Demon Souls, where I like the later games more. Okay. I think Demon Souls was pretty rough, and when I returned to it, I was like, this probably isn't for me. But graphically, that looked awesome. And I'm assuming they're not gonna. It's Blue Point, right?
Yes, Blue Point.
I'm assuming. Yeah, I'm assuming they're not gonna like just do the graphics. That they're gonna, make it like the Dark Souls have slowly got a little bit better and a little bit less cumbersome. I feel like they're gonna take that kind of stuff and sort of quality of life, because there's something about crunchy, but you don't have to. You can still have a great game and not like make it feel old. Saints Row 3 remaster. I'm talking to you. So like, because that game feels like Saints Row 3. It's just better graphics. So it feels old.
Makes sense.
So hopefully this one doesn't. It looked awesome, and people were really happy about it. I mean, that was probably the big. That might have been one of the big. That might have been the big reveal, to be honest. I mean, when you consider like. Yeah,
I'm surprised they didn't cap off the show with it. I guess it's just because Souls games aren't for everybody. Where what they can cap it off with Horizon, it's like the big, it's
oh, true. IP. They kept, yeah.
But this is, like I said, this stretch of the show. I'm looking at what we have to talk about, and this was the stretch of the show where you're like, oh my god, they all of these were like, oh, we saved the best for last. We saved the best for last. We saved the best for last, and they just kept like going. It was pretty wild. But yeah, Demon Souls remake is announced, and hopefully we can get our hands on it relatively soon. That brings us to Deathloop. Deathloop looks so good. This was, for me, arguably my favorite game of the show. I was a gigantic fan of Prey, Dishonored. Even if I had my complaints about Prey, you can go watch my review. I had some story complaints, but gameplay-wise, Arcane is so good. And this game looks like a more active extension with a lot more atmosphere and personality compared to Dishonored. Dishonored took itself very seriously, and it should have, because it had a lot of lore and a solid storyline, and maybe this one does too. But for those who don't know, the concept of Deathloop is that this guy is the center of entertainment. Every day is a party in this Black Reef, I think it's called, that he's in. And so they are just killing him for entertainment every night. And so it's just it's looping on
That's
repeat.
Awesome.
And when you play the game, it's like, okay, now he is fighting back. And if he's got a plan, if he takes out like 8 marked targets, just like Dishonored, you're taking out the marked targets. If you do that, then I imagine he'll be free. But at the same point, there's this woman who's like tracking him down, and part of me hasn't looked into it yet because I didn't know if I wanted to cover the game. I didn't know if I wanted to go media blackout, because I was very excited with what I saw, like the guns transforming and the abilities of lifting people up, throwing them to the side. Like there was just so much interactivity, but I know there's more to this game. But I gotta say, man, Deathloop was one of my favorites of the show. I was really pleased with what Bethesda brought to the table, and I'm not surprised because it was Arcane, and Arcane is really good. But what did you make of Deathloop?
Thought it was horrible.
What the fuck? Okay, all right, let's hear it.
So here's what's cool. This is going to be awesome because when we track it, as we get closer to release, this is going to be interesting to see like how this pans out, because the difference between your impressions and mine legitimately could not be any different. It looked like a $3 mobile title. The animations were terrible. The AI didn't respond to anything. It looked like We Happy Few with like a noir filter or something. It didn't. I was so disappointed when I saw that. So then I heard you at the starting of the podcast say, I heard you like, talking about it. And then I saw that you did a video and I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, we have it could not be more opposed on what we thought of that particular title. None of the others, but that particular title, for whatever reason, what you saw, I did not see any of what you saw. Like I saw the guns transforming, but I saw horrible gunplay. Like, so I can't wait to see, like, I'm more interested in what we think of it when it comes out. Like if we have, because we usually don't have divergent, we have a couple, but very few divergent titles for each one of us. Really very few compared to anybody I know. So I'm super excited because I want to see like what happens. And again, it is a cycle game, death and restart, which I did say I was a little tired of. But what you just described, I didn't know, which was it's a movie or TV show or whatever. Like
it's like
almost like a Truman Show.
It's not the gameplay mechanic. It sounds more like it's the narrative.
Yeah, but that actually got me twice as interested as I was the second prior to you saying it. So
that's good.
Those kind of things, then I think, yes, it might be the fiction, but it could also, what if this character hunting him is like paid to make the TV show interesting? Like, hunting him down. That's the black chick, right? Who's with the sniper rifle that you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So all that looks cool, but that's interesting, man. I'll have to watch it again and again and again to see, like, because sometimes I'll just be like, oh, that's not for me. And then go back and go,
my favorite thing about Arcane games, and it might just speak to me more than you because of this, is I love the way you can interact with everything. And it's why I was naturally, when I started my channel, I was very attracted to Bethesda Game Studios games, because you could pick up objects, you could do what you want with them, even if you could just add them to your inventory. Like, it was cool. And Arcane kind of brings this whole level of like, now you can, like in Prey, you can turn into a freaking pencil and start rolling around. Like the idea of
very cool.
Everything's a tool around you. And so you didn't see a lot of that with Deathloop right off the bat. What I saw was, okay, let's take some abilities from Dishonored, like you could teleport up to the top of the building, sort of like the Blink in Dishonored.
Yeah.
You see, it's interesting because this is where we do start to split. I thought the gunplay looked a lot more sharp compared to what was in Dishonored 2. In the terms of industry standards, was it like, oh my God, this looks like Apex Legends? No. But I still thought it looked sharp enough where the animation when he took the two pistols and linked them together and it turned into a rifle and he shot a guy in a window, I was like, wow, like that's kind of like the, I didn't replay Dishonored 2 as much as Dishonored 1. But when I was replaying Dishonored 1, I had those moments where you were stringing together abilities and tools and making these, for lack of better words, good plays. And it was very empowering. And I saw a lot of that in this game where he was sliding, he was lifting people up, tossing them to the side. He was like just switching guns a ton. And I like the idea of, instead of walking around with like a knife and just stabbing or choking people out, which we saw a combat knife in his hand at one point as he was creeping behind someone. So there is going to be a little bit of that. But I just like the idea of this let me start with this. If you wanted to play chaotically in Dishonored, it is fun, but it just doesn't, to me, feel right. It feels like I'm intentionally fucking myself over. This looked like if I chose this route, which I imagine it'll be a stealth option, but if I chose this route to play in this explosive fashion, that it actually would play well. That's what I took away from it personally as well. Yeah, I just, I guess I'm also, like I said, I'm a low-key Arcane fanboy. Like, I've not been their diehard fan all of my life. Like, I know a lot of my viewers are and a lot of people out there are, where they were playing, like, Arx Fatalis and whatnot. That definitely wasn't me. I started off with Dishonored 1, but I've been, like, an avid supporter of them ever since. And to me, anything from them is exciting, so there's a little bit of that bias there for sure. But I gotta say that it looked smoother than most of their stuff. Like, even Prey. Prey was a shooter, and that did not play well.
Arx Fatalis was fun. It might also be that because you played them so much, Dishonored, more than I have, that, like, you're in your brain or putting things together of how things might work, where I don't really have that. I mean, other than Prey.
That could make sense.
I don't really have, like, the knowledge to say, oh, I can see how this might translate. I did see the blink, obviously, and I forgot to throw up and throw a guy to the side. I did like that. So, yeah, I just don't really have the institutional knowledge of the Dishonored stuff. Other than, like, playing them the once for the reviews, I just never wanted to return. The only one I want to return to is The Death of the Outsider, because everybody's told me, including yourself, that is, like, one of the better titles in the entire series. So it's like, all right, that one I want to return to.
I see. It's funny you say that. I like that one narratively. Gameplay-wise, like, they got rid of the karma meter, or the chaos meter is what it was. So at the end of levels, it doesn't matter if you killed like 18 people or not. It's just like, all right, next mission. So it takes some of the shackles off, which might be good for some people because it doesn't really determine your ending. It's very just like straightforward.
But yeah, I mean, so I just don't think I really have the, and it looked I don't know, something about it just looked, maybe, you were talking about graphics. This might be the one for me where graphics, the piss urine filter that they seem to use, that reminds me a lot of Deus Ex. Which one was the one that looked like somebody peed on the camera? Is it Human
Revolution, probably.
Human Revolution,
like
I think.
Yellow. Yeah, it was all
Dude,
yellow.
yeah, that was, well, remember how Fallout had its filter, right? And 3 definitely had a filter, and then you have New Vegas has its filter. It could just be the graphics too, because it just looked dirty or something. I don't know, just something about it looked rough. But this is going to be awesome. We should note this one, because that one is a huge, it's a huge difference from what we took. And I'm sure people in the comments are just like, fucking, it's awesome, Karak stupid. But that's just what I got from it. I don't know.
No.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
You're not wrong.
At least one person. I'm sure one person at least is there.
Hey, I'm sure I've had a take throughout this where same thing. After this, like I said, this was a strong stretch. They move into Resident Evil 8. Would you mind just taking this for a sec? Because my he's texting me to come out for something with the dog. Would you mind just going in on it, and I'll be back in a sec?
Very much so.
All right,
yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
So, yeah, no problem. So with Resident Evil 8, we're just going to take over Matty's podcast. I'm going to upload new artwork. But Resident Evil 8, they showed it. One of the things I loved is they did Village for the 8, the VI, and that was awesome. They added, it looks like, werewolves or something along those lines, and it definitely takes, I think, artistic stylings from 7 that far more than the other Assassin's Creed games. It sort of took the artistic stylings of 7. No VR was announced or shown for it, which was interesting to me. But I think the reason why VR wasn't shown is we're in an economic collapse, basically. So it's difficult to say you need to buy a platform and then a platform for the platform to play this game. They showed a little bit of shooting, or at least with the gun, and 1 or 2 shots, I think, were fired. It didn't look the greatest. Graphically, it was pretty rough. There were some issues with frame rate and stuff. But again, that's not on Sony. That's like on, they tell Capcom we want to see, we want to see Resident Evil. We'd like to do it in our video. And I'm sure they were like, dude, it's not going to be running perfectly. We're in the middle of working on it. But I thought it looked awesome. It reminds me of whichever Resident Evil was in the medieval town. I'm sure people remember the number. Let's see. So that would be Resident Evil 4 that was in the medieval town? I don't feel that that's right. Um, I think that one was actually one of the highlights. Just because I've wanted a Resident Evil for a while, I will say that Chris, though, he shows up, and this is one of the problems with the art stylings that's happened with the Resident Evil games, is they've changed the way the characters look. So if you follow like interactive fiction, well, even not interactive fiction, if you follow fiction at all and you look at characters, one of the things that has to happen in a horror game is a sense of danger and a sense of that safety sort of being taken away. And that's usually done, it's done in various ways, but it can be done, especially in Resident Evil, with like inventory management, low amounts of bullets, dangerous enemies. But it's also done by the look of the characters. So when you see, other than one big character, if you look at Resident Evil 1, there was the one giant guy. I think he's the one who gives Jill the key and is like, you are the master of unlocking. But in the last, Resident Evils after that, I think it started with 3 or 4, everybody started getting straight up yoked. And so Chris shows up, and Chris looks like he's been rubbing his nuts with Decadiana Ball. He's got basically HGH gut. He looks like an baseball star. He looks like Barry Bonds or something, or McGuire. Like he just doesn't look good as a character aesthetic. He looks way too jacked. And your character says something like, "Oh, it's Chris. What are you doing, Chris Redfield?" or whatever he says to him. So you get the idea. He's there. Of course, he shows up at the end of 7. I don't know how they're going to tie those together, what they're going to do overall to tie those together, but I think when you look at it, that's a title that it seems like Resident Evil games have always had a little bit of a connection with with Sony. And so I think it was actually a pretty good title for Sony to actually put out there, pony out. I think also the color scheme, which was the blue, sort of Transylvanian blue kind of thing. If you notice, there's a shade. We were talking about filters in other games. There's like a little bit of a color filter there. I think that's very cool. They did a good job. I did see some people in Twitch that were joking around and saying something along the lines of like, it's Resident Evil 15 for 15 frames per second, but don't worry about that. Like that kind of stuff will be fixed. I think we've seen with the remakes that they can do some pretty incredible things. And since this is a full-on title, Resident Evil 8, I can't remember when 7 came out. That would have been February. Might have been 2 or 3 Februarys ago. What are we in, 2020? I think that was 2017, man. So 2017, you've got Resident Evil 7. Now you've got Resident Evil 8. Not 100% sure how long they've been working on it. And there was a date. Maddie might know when he comes back. I thought this one was 2021, but it might be 2022. Graphically, it looked awesome. I don't know if you guys got to see, but if you get a chance, go look at the trailer. They show like the lycanthrope. They show this werewolf like transforming over the top, and it all looked cool. The old guy looked awesome actually inside of, and in fact, that's one of the things you notice is the lighting. If you guys didn't sort of hear, there were some things that were ray traced. They were talking about like in Ratchet and Clank, they were saying the metal on Clank's head is ray traced or whatever. And they're being very careful to tell you that certain things are ray traced. That's because I don't know if the consoles are powerful enough to ray trace the entire scene. So it was just very cool lighting. Do you have to go or are you good?
No, I had to just get my dog.
Oh, okay. No worries.
Yeah, he is a fast one.
So, did he go outside?
Yeah.
Did he get out?
Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
So I had to run him down.
Oh, gotcha. Come back here, Scooter.
Yeah.
We were the one thing I was talking about is, do you remember a date for this being shown?
Resident Evil 8, here I can check. This article would definitely have it. 2021.
Okay, so that's the only thing I was saying that I couldn't remember, but overall I actually thought even though that frame rate, like I said, it was sort of glitchy, that's fine. I actually thought this one again was another title I was actually really interested in, because I think 2017 was what I was saying. I think that was Resident Evil 7.
Yes, correct. January of 2017.
January. So we are multiple years, and then they have the remakes, which I don't know how many team members work on those versus a Prime, this one being a Prime. And then I was also questioning, when was the one that was based in the medieval town? What Resident Evil was that? Where they went to because that's what this feels like.
4 was, I think, based in like a town of or village of some
in Europe, right? And like,
I don't know if
like,
well, obviously, I'm just going off my knowledge. I know 3 was Raccoon City, 2 was the police department, 5
One was the
in
mansion.
like Africa, right? I think it was.
Yeah, so this would have been 4 then, because this was
Yeah.
also on one of Nintendo's systems. But anyway, I like that's what it looks like to me. It looks awesome. I'm really stoked for a new Resident Evil, and I love that. It sounds so dumb, but I liked how they did 8 by using the V from Village.
Yeah, it's a little tacky, but it works.
It worked. It worked for me. I was just when they said Village, and everybody was like, "Ooh, what is this?" And then slowly the lettering fades until just the VIII was remaining. It was very cool. So,
yeah, that game caught me off guard a little bit because there was a leak on a German game site, but I thought to myself, all right, I remember back when I used to cover Fallout 4, like German sites would I put in quotes leak tons of games ahead of time, but they'd never end up being true. So I never really like fully bought in, but I thought, this would be a good prediction to make because it makes sense. It is time. I don't know how I feel about playing as Ethan and playing from I can't speak, first person yet again. I really felt like it would be more exciting if it was like a third person, kind of back to its roots, because they learned a lot with Resident Evil 7, like what works and what doesn't. And I liked the first person because it brings you closer to the scary shit. But at the same time, I think the reason why people connected with Leon, Chris, Claire, and so on is because you could see them. You can't really connect to Ethan. You connect to Mia more than Ethan, and I'm pretty sure Chris shoots her in the trailer. So there goes that character, which was also interesting to see Chris on this completely other level with like a black coat, just like sitting there with a handgun. He's like, boom, 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 boom. Did you a favor. Like, I don't know. And they say something in the trailer about, I forgot, it was like the cycle ends or like story comes to a close or something. Like, I think Ethan's going to get killed at the end of this.
Oh, gotcha.
I think they're going to do that. If they mean Chris, that would, oh my God, that'd be so stupid.
Dude, I was talking about this when you were gone. I was like, he shows up looking straight up like an baseball player, HGH gut roided out to his gills. He did that in 7 too. For the very ending of 7, he shows up and he's just like, "Sup, let's kill some bad guys." And that's the way he shows up in this. He's just massive, dude.
Yeah.
Do you know how hard it would be to put on fucking pure mass like that? It would be.
No.
And he shows up.
Sadly, no.
And sadly, no. Well, me neither. But I mean, he's huge. And I was telling these guys, I feel that one sense of horror is very difficult. You do it with like inventory management, lack of bullets. I've always felt that since they've started to get the more yoked characters, I've felt less horror, less scary, because they're physically imposing. If you have The Rock in the movie Scream, you'd just be like, he gets his hands on that dude, he's gonna mulch him. Yeah. And I think with a lot of these, 5 in particular, the African one, just they looked like mercs, like they just didn't
they had
look
to change
right.
their whole outfit, right?
Yeah. So you and I do disagree, though. While you were gone, I said I was happy about the first person, and I love the idea of that. And it sounds like you, because it's Ethan, are more interested in it being third person. So that'll be the one thing that I think we'll have to see is how they handle the horror itself in first or third. I'd forgotten that it's a character you want to look at.
Yeah, I just feel like that's the one thing 7 really missed was building Ethan. I feel Mia got built more because you have that whole section on the ship, which really builds her character. You're like, oh, okay. And then, like I said, they fucking shoot her in the trailer. I'm like, why would A, you show that, and B, kill probably the more interesting of the two right off the bat?
Right.
I wasn't a fan of that. But I am excited to see another mainline Resident Evil game. I was worried that they were just gonna like remake 4 and then just like, please don't touch 5. Like 5, you can't replicate a beautiful co-op game like that. I don't want them to keep remaking. I wanted them to make a new one. I think they got caught up in the remake hype. 3 sort of splashed in their face a little bit because it wasn't as good as 2, which was a more demanding project. So I'm just happy to see they're continuing with the mainline series. It's time. So
I thought, that's what I was talking about right when he came back, is Sony made clear many times that only certain parts of the screen were ray traced. which I think that makes sense since a console, even if you put a chip in there, it's not as powerful as like a 2080 Ti and all of their ray tracing stuff. So I noticed the lighting in that looked really good, and I was like, maybe they're using some ray tracing for some of the lighting, because when he's in the house and it's the blue of like Transylvanian blue is what I called it. Like something about that lighting I dug, because that was the one thing I would say I wasn't in love with in 7 was the brown. In fact, maybe I don't like brown shit. Because it just dawned on me. I don't. Fallout 3, the other game we just talked about, Killing Loop, and then this is blue, and I like it more than 7, which I feel had a swampy brown, like, poop look to it. I don't know how to describe it. But yeah, awesome. It was definitely, regardless of how it showed, this one, I'm all for.
I'm with you. Nearing the end of all of the reveals, we've got Pragmata, a post-apocalyptic game set in a world where cats are now holograms. Horrifying natural disasters wreck the world of Pragmata. We see a man in a spacesuit get thrown into the air along with several cars, and he finds himself on the moon with little explanation. This is a game that will arrive in 2022, so this was a bit of a reach of announcements. In my opinion, I don't know why they'd show a 2022 game at all. Perhaps some of these games that we already saw previously are also 2022, because a lot of them are missing dates. But I thought at first I was making a joke. I thought it was like a Death Stranding standalone thing.
Literally every single person thought that.
Yeah. The suit, the thing on the back.
The background. Dude, everything. Yeah, the chick. Everything looked like Death Stranding 1.5 or something.
Yeah. I always liked that shot of the moon and looking down on an Earth. And I think he said it was like freedom or something.
Yeah, she says, "What's that?" And he's like, "Freedom."
Yeah. And so I kind of like that. I thought, even though it was a little cheesy, I like that. I don't know really why, but what did you make of this game? I couldn't really pick anything apart at all.
Same. I still think it aesthetically it's going to get destroyed by people who like Death Stranding, because they're going to be like, you copied it. And I've already seen people doing videos on YouTube being like, at some point, what is plagiarism? Now, I don't necessarily believe graphically you can say that, because there's 1,000 cel-shaded games. But, dude, I don't think that's on accident. Like, it takes a lot to make that many steps, make it look like some other game that closely.
Yellow for the backpack thing. Yeah, it was very
so it'll be fun to see that discussion. But overall, I didn't see much to it. A little girl. I think I'm tired of little girls being like the not the scion, the cipher. So like Fear, little girl, what are they called? Little sisters in BioShock.
Oh yeah, the little sisters.
Yeah.
Yep.
That character you always protect. I don't know.
Yeah, the catalyst to some protective role.
Yeah, the little boy in Mass Effect was the same way. Like, I want to see how they play, what it is.
I forgot about that. That was Mass Effect 3, right?
Yeah.
Oh man,
I wish I could forget. If you could hit that out of my head, I'd really appreciate it.
What a sad moment. I remember that. We had a whole talk about that moment. Yeah.
But overall, I mean, it could be great. And I like the ending when they're on the moon, because then that makes again, if they didn't tell you that wasn't Death Stranding, that's something Kojima would do, is go to the fucking moon. So like,
that's what I was thinking, because I know nothing about Death Stranding, so I'm like, oh, he's going to the moon now.
You're right. Just because, right? Because like they took a moon bridge. You just think it makes sense. So, I'm interested in that kind of. It's out there, another out there game, which could be cool.
Yeah, weird timing for the announcement, because they were rolling with Demon Souls, Deathloop, Resident Evil 8. Next will be Horizon, which we'll talk about in a sec. But they threw this in there, and it's coming so far down the line. I guess maybe they wanted it there so people didn't forget about it, because if you have a 2022 game stuffed in the middle, it's a little more forgettable, and maybe it's more significant than we had anticipated. But I don't know. To me, too much resemblance to Death Stranding. All right.
Do you also think there's a chance, Maddie, that they did that to capture, like, that whoever is running the event was like, hey, dude, just by sheer desire of people to play another Death Stranding style game. This game looks a little like Death Stranding. Let's throw it in here into our trailer. And maybe it's because I don't even know who makes that game. Like,
I don't
were
know
they
either. It didn't say it on the article I read.
Yeah, so it's just like maybe it's one of those things where somebody was like, dude, it by pure mixing of everything together, this will help us garner some discussion. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah. I think that the goal was ultimately get something for everybody. So, all right. Moving on to our last game announcement. It is Horizon Forbidden West. So it was pretty obvious this game took place in the West when we saw what was like the Golden Gate Bridge. I saw she went underwater and there was some sign that said like San Francisco, and I said to my audience, I was like, did anyone see the sign? Like I'm pretty sure I saw like Francisco on that or something like that.
Oh, gotcha.
But no one actually in the chat had caught it at the time. But yeah, the game looks, how do I describe it? There was a tribal nature to Zero Dawn. This looks more exploration focused, diversified. Like the biomes were already very diverse in Horizon Zero Dawn, but something about this had a more tropical sense to it, but it still was very diverse. A lot of going underwater, and, monsters coming up from the water. Inside the water were like those robots. I forgot the exact name of them because it's been a while since I played Horizon Zero Dawn. We predicted this. We talked about this. What do you think about Horizon getting a sequel in the West?
It looked good. I mean, I'm all for it. That's just a title that I really enjoyed the first one, despite some combat issues. So I will say, though, that they did this thing where they jumped. So they go from gameplay, or what might be gameplay, to CGI with, and you can tell usually because it'll be an unplayable camera angle. It'll be a camera angle that you would never choose to play, or is just not even doable. But I like the alligator or whatever swimming above her. I was like, that shit, that's fun. And then her riding on the beach. I mean, and then that creature at the end. So that creature at the end with the grass on its back, I believe that is possible with these new systems and with like PC hardware and stuff. If you're trying to go for that specific thing, it looked like CGI, but I'm gonna say I hope it wasn't, because that creature looked fucking awesome. So like, I'm just gonna say I hope it wasn't. I hope it wasn't CGI. I think it was. I didn't look close enough.
It'd be really neat if
amazing.
There was like a difference in graphics where you can sort of tell sometimes when you approach something that's supposed to be in the environment as an enemy, and that like as you're I hit the mic. As you're exploring along, you just see this giant turtle come up with like a tree on its back, and that thing was attacking you.
Sweet looking. So
yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I wish I had more to say. I sort of fell out of love with Horizon over the years, where I still like it a lot. Love its universe. I love its gameplay, but the story and the characters really didn't stick with me. So I'm going to be looking at Forbidden West through the eyes of someone who just wants to see, what they're going to do to make things stick this time for people like me. Maybe I'm just isolated on that, but I'm going to see what they do to reach out to a player like myself.
I don't think they're going to do anything. Yeah, do you know why I don't think that? Because Lance, it sold fine, and Lance Riddick, the black actor, the guy who was the voice, he is in it. They showed him, and to me, there was so much stuff shown for fans of the first one. Does that make sense?
It's a good point.
Like that, I'm nervous because I would like them to somehow. You have to grandfather in, because it doesn't make sense. Like today, somebody turns 18, they buy a PS5, or let's say when it's out, they turn 18, they buy their first console and they want to play Horizon Zero Dawn 2. I have this I have this feeling we're going to see a remaster of Horizon Zero Dawn when the PC version is getting ready to come out, and they're like, here's the... And maybe when you buy two, you get number one, but there's got to be a way to grandfather in, because that's a direct sequel, Maddie. That's not like a Final Fantasy or something, you know, where they have contained stories. Like they were like, now she's here, and you're all. If somebody says something like that, that means, well, where was who and where were they, right? So I think hopefully they try. Just don't know if they will. But I mean, maybe the second story with the first one will then make you like the characters more, or you know, flesh them out. I wasn't in love with Aloy or anything. I didn't hate her, but she was sort of there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. She to me was like the most interesting character in the game, but I don't
Oh
think
wow, and I
much.
thought she was just there. So really,
yeah,
it's true though. There wasn't really a person.
mm-hmm.
You know, it was the world more than anything.
Yeah, exactly. All right. With all of the games out of the way, we move into the console itself. We don't have pricing. We just know it's coming in this holiday. But with that in mind, we'll pass it to you, my friend. What do you think of the design itself, as well as them announcing a digital edition first before Xbox, which is kind of funny?
Yeah, I just looking at the event and where they were trying to hit, I'm assuming it's really expensive because they're trying to sell it to kids' parents and parents. It's not we're hardcore, so we're only getting we are in an economic recession that is massive. And if the United States is, most places are. And just because of how much we consume. So I'm assuming we're talking a pretty expensive console, or expensive in today's terms for how much we all have to give out because we're, you know, everybody's having so many issues.
Of course.
I think it's ugly as so. First of all, I put mine in a cabinet. I want to make sure that's clear. I don't care what it looks like, but I don't like the design. I just don't like it. It doesn't appeal to me, nor does the Xbox X. It's big. I didn't realize it was bigger than the Xbox X series, which is going to be strange that this will be controllers bigger and consoles bigger. So it's a pretty massive console. Like somebody was doing a height thing, and it's like it's going to be a monster. The round won't sit horizontally, which I also think is sort of a disaster because with the Xbox Series, you can still turn it horizontal. You probably wouldn't want to, but you can. This one doesn't sit horizontal because of the round shape. So it's like, that'll be interesting.
There are pictures of it on its side, but it looks
well. That's what I thought.
Horrible on its side.
It looked, and it actually doesn't look like there's a stand. Maybe there's you know what? There could be a plastic stand that's got a concave, and then you put it on. There we go. Probably. Okay, because I was like, you can't put it on its side from what we saw because it's rounded on the edges.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad you saw that because I didn't, and I think the more options for people, the better. Other than that, I don't really, like, form factor's never been a thing for me, so I'm pretty okay with what they showed. I mean, I don't like it, but
my biggest concern is definitely the size. I didn't think it looked bad. I thought it kind of looked good, actually.
You like the
and I know I'm kind of alone on that,
look?
It seems. That's a good way of putting it. A lot of people were saying router, so I think that's a nice thing for you to say.
It's definitely.
But I liked the look of it. A viewer on my Twitch stream described it best. They're like, it's kind of 90s futuristic. And I when he said that, it stuck with me because I've been playing Mega Man Battle Network. And it kind of that has that 90s futuristic feel. Like, what would happen if cars didn't have wheels and they just glided and you had a pet that you could, like, jack into networks and manipulate the web. And it was very, like, it evoked that kind of idea to me of just, like, the 90s future. Like, what if we had, like, round edges at the top for no reason, and it had a blue glow coming from it just because. So in that respect, I liked it. But at the end of the day, my biggest concern is the size for both of them, because I look at my setup right now. I have my PS4, my Switch, and then my PS3, actually, where my Xbox One was, but I lent it to my brother. But anyway, all three of these consoles, it's funny, actually. The best way to put it is the Switch stands taller than all of them. And the way it's laid out is I have my entertainment center, and then I think you got a foot of space between that and the bottom of my TV. So both these consoles, especially the Xbox One, they gotta be standing up tall, and I stand a pretty good chance of having my screen completely blocked out. So for me, my biggest concern is absolutely the size. just like, is there room for these? That type of stuff. I worry about that a little bit. But overall, the looks of the PS5, I think the digital edition is smart. For people who don't care about physical, I will not be taking that route personally because I do care about physical, and I'm glad they have the options. I think that's the key moving forward is options for everybody. That's all they need. Places to spend their money. That's it.
I think it also shows, though, internally that like they're certainly not as like I would say backwards compatible smart, because if you have your disc for like the Xbox, you put it in. You have your old Xbox One game, you put it in. It just updates. If you don't have a disc drive, you're not doing that. Where the Lockhart isn't actually as powerful as the X series. It's like a completely different thing. That's why it's supposedly discless as well. It's going to be weird to see who bites on a discless. Also, it's going to be weird to see if Sony continues their trait, which is to drop anything that doesn't sell as much as their primary, which is what they did with the PS3's backwards compatibility units.
It's true.
So what I'm wondering is the digital just there again as a price gambit? Because what I saw from Sony was a bunch of stuff to try to explain to you why it's going to be expensive. And if you do a disc version and a discless, you can say $100, even though, by the way, other than the licensing fee for putting a Blu-ray player in there, that's not expensive. But it does also cause a huge issue if you don't have the disc version. Because have you ever downloaded a Blu-ray? Do you know how expensive it is? It's beyond belief. They're huge. They're like 80 gigs for, a single movie. When they've got all they're massive. And because of audio being uncompressed and, 10 channel for a big movie. So it's a weird gambit because it's like, well, here's a discless version, but we're also pushing Blu-ray, but you can't do Blu-ray in this version, but downloads on your hard drive have to be small. That's another issue. So you've got a smaller hard drive, and then you're telling people to load a Blu-ray movie on it. Now, most people will stream Netflix, all that stuff, but a lot of people have a physical Blu-ray player or want one because they have physical Blu-rays as well, even though I'll be totally honest, that's not a big thing or as big. Xbox has got the same problem with Lockhart if they go discless with Lockhart. And I think they're sort of trying to pretend it's going to be way cheaper. But, dude, let's say they do $100 delta between disc and discless.
Right.
I'm assuming that means the disc version is $600. Just looking at price. And the 500 is to get you to buy on a 500. Now, they could do 400 and 500. But at that point, dude, who's going to want to do 400? If you're above 300, Matty, do you not spend the extra 100 so that you can't watch Blu-rays and you can't just grab a PS4 disc and put it in that's backwards compatible that'll just patch your game? You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
We're running into a lot of weird issues because of the price. And the world economics is just not where it should be for a new console. Both these guys are in deep shit when it comes to, like, how do you sell your system? So
I agree.
And then, dude, the backwards compatibility thing is weird because Jim didn't show anything. And it's just like, because, again, it's just money. I know a lot of people who want to carry that. It's this gen, you can't sell somebody an awesome-looking game like Death Stranding and then say, oh, it's not backwards compatible. I'm sure that one will be backwards compatible, but you get my drift. Yeah. It's like you want to move your shit forward, so...
Yeah, but not leave everything behind. Like, I would love to be able to put... I'm looking at my shelf right now. I would love to be able to put Dragon Ball Fighters in to my PS5.
Right,
and
right.
Like, I feel like that's something I should be able to do. Like, it would be stupid if I had to buy that again. That's why I'm pretty nervous about the whole thing with GTA 5. Because they're like, it's enhanced and expanded. And I'm thinking to myself, are you going to resell this shit? Because...
They are. That is a sellable version, by the way. I found that out. Oh, by the way, also not exclusive. I have no clue
I figured
how that... Yeah. I think it's timed, but they had already stated that it's they're selling it again.
That's ridiculous, man. Especially after, like, what Ubisoft did. I understand CD Projekt Red, they sort of have, like, a good PR mojo going. So I'm not as surprised, but like Ubisoft saying, yep, free upgrade when it comes to Valhalla. And I know you and I have had good experiences with them. We don't have as much negative things to say about them, but I know a lot of people do. And so I just look at it and go, man, like, what are they thinking? You know,
Well, and also enhanced. I'm sorry, but like that's the one place where Microsoft has done a better job on their verbiage. Like you just are like, oh, I put in any system and it's enhanced already. But Sony's like enhanced and expanded, which the expanded part is to get you to buy it again, obviously. But what I've been trying to find out is what's expanded. Now, recently, there's been a bunch of stories, PC Gamer and a couple others, who've been talking about data mining of GTA 5 and finding all kinds of crazy shit, including ferries in the water that will ferry you to different parts of the city, all kinds of stuff. What do you think? You know, Microsoft paid for Lost in the Damned. Is it possible Sony said, okay, we want expanded to be some of this stuff you didn't finish, you know, because there's a lot of stuff in there. There's entire buildings. That's another thing. What if Sony says, hey, make more buildings in, what's the term? You can go into them, because that's one of the problems GTA had was you couldn't go into a good deal of the buildings. What if they're like, hey, expanded, meaning you can go into some of these places, you know? So,
right. Yeah.
I don't know.
At first I thought they were going to do like single player DLC. I sort of thought that was it.
Maybe that.
You know, maybe that's just because I've been out of the whole GTA 5 loop for a good number of years now. But I definitely thought when they had initially announced it that I was like, oh man, like they're gonna do like expand it to DLC. But I knew that was like me making a wish more so than what they'd actually do.
That you know what though? I think you might be. I mean, let's hope. I don't know. Let's hope, because that was a weird announcement, and especially at the starting of a PS5 only, and then they're like, "Here's the same game since the 360."
That's what
like,
I'm saying. Right. I imagine they were trying to get out of the way, or they knew like the Rockstar logo would hype people up, something like that.
True, but dude, do you know what would hype us up? What if they said Bully enhanced and expanded,
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
It's the game's too relevant to be enhanced and expanded.
Right. Dude, I know.
It's still in the top 10 like every month almost. Like I know.
It's ridiculous.
Like, what do you have to enhance and expand? Just go collect your money and fuck off. You know, like that's how I look at it. All right. With that all out of the way, we do have some patron questions we're going to go through in more of a rapid fire way. As you guys can probably tell, this show is already going on pretty long. We're at according to my clock, 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Oh, damn, really? Oh, we are.
Yes, okay. We are coasting along here. We wanted to make sure we gave every game the right amount of attention. And so now we start off the patron question section with Dino. Hey, Maddie and Karak, with everything going on over there, hope you and your families are doing okay. Best wishes from down under. Thank you, Dino. Very kind of you to say.
Yeah.
What are you hoping to see from Xbox's quadruple A studio, The Initiative, a new IP, a remake of their old ones? Second question is, after Halo Infinite, do you think 343 should take a break from Halo and branch out and do something new?
New IP, I'm sure.
I think quadruple A is just
it's the dumbest
buzzword. Don't buy into it.
Yeah.
So I'm that's my answer for that. Don't buy into it. That's what I'm hoping to see. As for 343, I think it depends on the reception. If Halo Infinite's like that spark that makes everyone go like, I love Halo again, because the way they're handling the collection coming to Steam and whatnot has been pretty solid and well received, where people are excited. I'm seeing more and more positive talk about Halo on my timeline. So, you know, I look at it and think to myself, all right, if they nail this and they can just keep expanding it, then why walk away from it? Because Halo 4 came and went, Halo 5 came and went. If you get Infinite right, stick with it. Stick with it for sure, because then you got
I would agree with that.
Excellent. Skooma Vendor. Hey guys, bit of a long one, but I promise there's a question in the end. Maddie, I saw you put on Twitter about thinking of starting Destiny, which if you did, I wouldn't necessarily wait till fall because the new season just started, and it seems to have a fair bit of tie-in story. So if you ever wanted to jump in, feel free to message me, as PS4 is probably the best place to play it. Thank you for asking, and thank you for offering. I've kind of decided I'm not going to do it, and I've gotten a lot of messages from viewers, patrons, as well as a couple of colleagues to play, but I think I'm not going to. Just from what I heard, I wasn't that interested. Anyway, my question is, Bungie just did something a little odd and revealed their entire hand for the next 2+ years of content for Destiny. Nothing specific for the content out of 2020, just title cards, etc. As someone who does enjoy the lore and overall story of Destiny, it's interesting as it has often annoyed me how little important story content there was over its lifespan. However, do you think announcing stuff this early shows a clear direction and creative vision for the story, or do you think it's just a shot in the dark for a game that always hasn't had the best direction? That's a great question. What do you make of that?
I would say it's probably mostly Luke. What's his name? Luke Smith?
Smith, yeah.
Who's taken the brunt of pretty much everybody's, distaste. I think overall he's just trying to right the ship. And one of the major complaints about that game, at least from what I'm always hearing from everybody, is lack of data. Mm-hmm. It seems to me like that's what he was trying to do, was be like, and they didn't say, here's every jump you're going to do and here's every gun you're going to have. It was just like, here's the general bumps. That still allows them a ton of flexibility, with what they're doing, and but to make whatever he said they're going to make. So I think it's more of a not PR stunt at all, but just doing what he stated. And I'm not a huge fan of some of the stuff he's done, so it's not like I'm defending it, but I think it makes sense.
The way I look at it, and from what I read recently and what I've heard, is that Destiny is becoming more and more like an MMO. And
yes, it is.
And I think the best way to get anyone to buy into your games as a service is why I was really pushing for saying Bethesda should show off a roadmap with the launch of Wastelanders, is because people were talking about 76 positively. Let people know what you're doing.
It'll be around.
Nothing will help a game more than knowing it has a future. I guarantee they lost a ton of their players between the time they released Wastelanders and the time of the roadmap announcement, for sure. Yep. So I think that's the other thing, is knowing you got 2 years of content coming to a game. It makes it easier for someone like me who was looking into it to download it. I never considered downloading Destiny 2. So I think that kind of speaks for itself, if anything. This question is probably more for you, Karak. Ivory State says, hey guys, how's it going? It's going well. I was wondering if you guys have followed the new Microsoft Flight Simulator at all, and what you think of some of the technology involved. To me, it looks like it could very well revolutionize games with the graphical fidelity at world scale possible via streaming textures and map data. I think if it's everything claimed, it could be applied to a variety of games and software concepts, not just flight simulation. For example, VBS3, the military simulation software split off from Arma by Bohemia Interactive Simulations, makes use of the global height map and satellite imagery to simulate battlefields globally, but not anywhere near the fidelity seen even from the air in Microsoft Flight Simulator. The way I see it, it should be possible using procedural object placement to flesh out any area of the world. Maybe not to AAA action game standards, but who knows with the way technology is progressing as it is. Really detailed and thought-provoking question here. As someone who's not into simulators at all, I know Microsoft Flight Simulator looks excellent from what they showed off in one of their gameplay things with it. I think it was last E3 is when I saw it. But Karak, do you think that this could change how games are made?
Yeah, I think it's the same way though that like AI upscaling works, where like it works to add and help, but it doesn't work to create all by itself. So like, for example, they still have to do a bunch of shit in Microsoft. What he's talking about is it takes Google Maps and flight and topographical data and turns it into 3D items. But what it's doing is it's not transforming the data points on Google into a tree. It's saying a tree is there. And then the graphics engine draws the tree. So it's not like magically getting cloud power or anything. I played it, by the way. So it is, and by the way, none of what you're seeing is fake. That is the way the game looks. So it's, I would say technologically, it's like 10 years above anything else when it comes to how it's doing some of its stuff. It's like, it's mind-numbing. And do you know what? That didn't start even in what we're seeing. The technology started somewhere else, and somebody was like, we can do a game with this. So yeah, it's cool. It's just like AI is cool. It's just like Sony, you know, all these companies come up with a cool idea. They try a couple things and they put them all together. Like ray tracing. Ray tracing wasn't a thing until it was a thing. So yeah, very cool stuff. I'm glad people are following it, because it's not really a game. Like it's right. You know, you don't go, that'll be fun.
I know Microsoft's doing a blending of like technology from a variety of their studios and sharing it, sort of like what we saw with the Decima engine with Sony and Kojima Productions.
Very
but
much,
a little bit more than that, from what I've heard. I don't want to use like names and specify, but they definitely are sharing tech. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is some type of carryover they can use from the Microsoft Flight Simulator. Then they will. They definitely.
I mean,
will.
imagine a racing game, just real quick, and then we'll move on. But imagine a racing game where they say, "Here's Oregon," and it's just every road because they have all the data for roads.
I like that idea.
And
that's a good idea.
And you're driving past. Because we're already using, I can look at my old house in Google Maps right now. The idea of driving past it and being like, it might not be perfect, but it's still my house in the general area, and it's got the color from Google Maps, and you drive by it. That's insanity.
I would like that. Yeah. Now that you mention that, that'd be awesome. They just call it Microsoft Driving Simulator.
Yeah, no shit. Right.
All right, a series of questions from Vault 101 guy. Number 1, Matty, I may be wrong, but didn't you say a while back that you were going to do voice work for the new Oddworld game? You'd be correct, and they did reach out to me recently, and
cool.
I should be doing it soon, which will be neat. I can't reveal what I'm doing yet, because quite honestly, I don't know what I'm doing yet. All right, number 2, looking for new YouTube channels to subscribe to for gaming-related stuff. Any suggestions? Ooh, man. I'm trying to think of. I watch lately gaming. I don't watch a lot of gaming YouTubers because I don't want to have my opinion influenced too much. But at the same time, I want to make sure I'm like watching other creators and what they're doing and what they're up to because I just like their work. I like RGT85. I've been watching him a little bit recently. Who else have I been looking at? The Black Hokage is another one. I've suggested him a lot, but he's one I will go back to. He's just authentic is the best word. Very transparent guy. I would really suggest him too. Those are two that just immediately come to mind that I think maybe some people wouldn't know, even though, well, Black Hokage is way bigger than me, but that's besides the point.
And for me, it'd be O Knights O, and Knights as KNIGHTZ. So there's an O at the starting, then Knights, then an O. And he just does 10 awesome details or 20 hidden things in this game. And they're just fun to watch. I would agree with you. And I just don't have the time either. I don't usually watch gamer stuff unless it's us. Like if it's my core 6, 7 people, I'll watch their stuff. Otherwise, I'm actually watching like science, informative videos or something crazy like that. So I would say that's pretty much the only one I even. Gamers Toolkit. Some of the stuff is just his impression of what's going on, so it can be a little like don't take it as gospel. But Gamers Toolkit's very good.
Yeah, I watch a lot of card game channels personally. That's where I go to. Yeah, I like watching like people play like Dragon Ball or Magic or Pokemon. Even if I don't play 66% of those, I just still find them fun to watch. It's just a nice detachment from what I spend most of my time talking about while still being a game. Number 3, I'm sure you've already been asked this, but Karak, will you ever upload the International Podcast on YouTube? Would love to be able to download it on YouTube so I can listen on the go.
I don't even know what's going on there. I don't know. I'm so depressed by the entire situation that I don't know what's going on with YouTube. And I don't know. If I can, I will. But they struck me so many times that I'm a little nervous about going back.
Understandable.
Yeah. So iTunes and Spotify, go there for now. We're on iTunes and Spotify. It'll update in about an hour. Updates a couple hours.
You can, by the way, Vault 101 guy, you can download those in advance. When they queue up, you can download those, and I'm pretty sure have them on your phone. So then you can just listen on the go. So
yeah, true. That is true. That is true.
Yeah. Number 4. How do you guys feel about recent influxes of remakes/remasters? I believe it is one way for people who just started gaming to experience these games who haven't. But on the other hand, I feel like it's just a cash grab. I think it's... At first, I didn't like it at all. But I feel like as time has gone on and I've become more open to it, I feel like gaming is the only place they can get away with taking something and saying, we can make this better. And then actually doing that. Like, I do think the Final Fantasy VII Remake is better than the original game. I do. Yeah.
Whoa, Maddie's getting hate mail. I really
do.
Filter on.
I really do. I stand by that because I think it's a much more complete game and it rewards it makes characters that were throwaway interesting, and like I said, they just do so much justice to Barrett for sure, Tifa absolutely, and Aerith absolutely too. I think they knocked it out of the park with that game, story wise. And then it's more fun to play. So yeah, I think that one's a good example of like, oh yeah, we took an old game and we made it better. Obviously 7's still a classic, and 7 will have a more permanent impact on gaming history than almost any other game out there. And I still love and appreciate it. But yeah, like so I'm open to it. But then if you get like a shitty, just it's in 60 FPS, go buy it. Like no, that's the stuff that sucks. It's a case by case basis. That's how I feel.
Same. Case by case, and also we don't know it's a money grab because we don't know how much it costs for them to do it and how much they sell. I would say this, other than what Maddie just mentioned with like Final Fantasy VII, I think a lot of remasters don't sell even a tenth of 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 their original sales. They just don't. And so like Saints Row might have broke even. We have no clue how many, but it looked amazing. Huge graphic change. It wasn't just resolution. So Mars Remastered or whatever that shit.
Stupid name.
Yeah, that game on the other hand, hopefully it sold 0 copies. But yeah, I would agree with Maddie. I'm not really against them too much as long as they remake or remaster still means like putting some work in, man. Not just like you said, not just 4K.
Yeah,
remakes price
are a little. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just remakes are a little more exciting to me because it means that it's like a full game.
Yeah, I was just gonna say price also matters. If you get a remaster that is just 4K, but it's like $20, then that doesn't bother me as much as if it's 60, which a lot of them do.
Like we say, case by case.
Yeah, case by case.
Cover Paint writes in, thoughts on buying a next-gen console, seeing as they are quite powerful instead of investing in a PC for most of next-gen gaming. See, I'm starting to see more and more because like we noticed that PC, the worst exclusivity you have to deal with is the Epic Games Store, which some people don't care about, some people do. I feel like there are great games that you miss out on if you go straight to PC. Like you won't be able to play Spider-Man PS4, at least for now. You won't be able to play God of War, at least for now. You won't be able to play Gears of War. Actually, no, you can. I'm sorry. I apologize. You can. But it's mostly just PlayStation. So there are things you're always going to be missing out on. But I think right now it's not the time to make a call on your purchasing decision. I would say, though, that PC is looking optimal. When I looked at like the Deathloop situation and the Ghostwire Tokyo situation, I thought they're going to PC. So really only the one who's losing here is Xbox fans.
Yeah, and I would say overall, it all depends on price. Because if a next-gen console is $400, then obviously the console. Like there's no... Like if that's what you want is convenience and you want to press a button. Because I just spent 2 days re-updating my PC and reinstalling Windows. That's not something you have to worry about on an Xbox or a PS4.
Exactly.
That's a huge deal. So it depends on convenience, where you want to put it. It's not just a one or done for either side. And I'm a person who has everything. So does Maddie. And it's too hard to just be like, oh, for sure this, because exclusives or convenience or whatever.
Yeah. Bolotov Michelle writes in, question, why does Karak not like the Vita?
So in my podcast this morning, somebody said they're bringing blah, blah, blah out for the Vita. And I spaced it and thought it was either a Dragon Ball character or it was a slang for vagina. And I said, what's a Vita? And everybody was like, Maddie's gonna shit. And I was like, what are you guys even talking? And then it dawned on me it was the I was like, I was so confused. I thought it was a dragon. Isn't Vegeta, right?
Vegeta. Yep.
Thank you. So I wasn't too far off, but no. I was complete. I was like, what's a Vita? And people just instantly were like, wrong podcast to say that on, because we know. And Michelle's like, guess who I'm going to talk to right now?
She did tag me in it. She's like, what are your thoughts that he doesn't know a Vita? I was like, I got to tag Karak and be like, dude, we do a weekly show. Come on.
I just spaced it, man. It's been a spacey couple weeks.
Oh, for sure. I can't blame you. I can't blame anyone. Brown Ninja writes in, says, hey, Maddie, I don't like the PS5 design. Brown Ninja, We respect your opinion. Thank you for sharing.
That was it?
Yep.
That was it?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Just Lee Martin says, do you think the PS5 will support remote play? Or do you think The Last of Us 2 killing the Vita was tied to the Vita actually dying? Or will they make a new handheld to go with? I would love to see them try a Vita 2. I would love it. Because more and more people are coming out saying, man, this is a great console. Where were you when we really needed you to be vocal about it? Is my fucking question. But with that being said, I don't think they'll acknowledge the Vita at all of a sudden. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It would be awesome to have a Vita too, because I think the Switch is already getting long in the tooth, especially when you see Outer Worlds. So
yeah, exactly. I think they realized that with how, I guess this generation was quick, but you could sit on consoles a lot longer and just make a shit ton of money back through software. I feel like handhelds have unless it's like the DS where it came at the right time, I feel like the lifespan's a little shorter in what you can do with it. So you got to make your money back a little quicker. So unless Sony just comes into a ton of cash and just go, you know what? Hey, let's do this, guys. I'm sure they're researching and developing one, like in the idea of like, what if we did this, right? Because there were those patents and trademarks, I believe, of like a PlayStation with handles on the side to take on the go. So, I'm sure they're looking into it, but nothing more than that. Ivory State, once again. Did you guys notice a weird uncanny valley effect on the presenters? It wasn't an isolated phenomena. A lot of people were watching thought that they were going to reveal at the end all the people were rendered with the PS5, but Sony came out and said that everything was filmed at their homes. Some speculate that it was some kind of post-processing or lighting effect that made it look like that. Yeah, so I saw this. This was an actual story. People thought that they were actually like procedurally generated into the game. Or I'm sorry, CGI, not into the game.
Oh, you mean the presenters like at the starting saying like Jim Ryan and all that?
They were just CGI.
I didn't notice, but I mean, as somebody who uses blue screen, I can tell you that it doesn't take much to fuck up. Like I can see one of my pictures slightly through my head. Like you can make things look really weird, and then depending on your frame rate, you can remember they went 1080p 60 on purpose. So they also could have filmed themselves on 30 FPS or 120, and then merging those will cause a weird, like almost a Muir effect. You'll get like a weird smoothing effect, which absolutely could have been it.
Right. Harris 2345678. Obligatory reminder to stay hydrated. Thank you. I'm out of water right now, but I was drinking the whole.
I'm on my fourth Mountain Dew. Thank you.
How do you feel about EA shadow dropping onto Steam during the PlayStation reveal? Yeah, this kind of came out of nowhere.
I know. And I still don't know what it means.
I don't either. I think it's because they probably have a lot of, I would imagine. This is the hopeful part of me. They have a lot to show at EA Play, so they are getting some stuff out of the way early.
You know what I was hoping? That they were going to cancel Origin. And we wouldn't have another store. So that honestly, I was like
in that reality yet.
No, we're not, dude. Yeah, because that's a fantasy land, by the way.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
But that's a good point. I mean, it could be that. It was an odd thing. I don't think anybody knows. I mean, I don't even think they've said why. I mean, they did shadow drop a shit ton of games too. So
yeah, it was Mass Effect. It was, I think, Dragon Age. Just everything was going on there. So it was pretty crazy. Brown Ninja writes in, hey, Maddie, apparently Persona 4 Golden will come to PC on June 14th. I think it's the 13th. This is brilliant. Now you can spend $800 buying a GPT WinMax to play Persona 4 Golden on a portable device if you can't afford a PS Vita. As I've never played it, do you think Persona 4 Golden holds up today? Yeah, if you've played Persona 5 at all, like not even just Royal, but if you've played Persona 5, some stuff will be dated. But story-wise, character-wise, it does hold up well. The beginning's a little slower in comparison to some games nowadays. But this is also a top 3 game of all time for me. The way I'm looking at it is because I know I love the game. I'll spend a lot of money on it. But if you are a listener, you're curious about Persona, I would say do not buy these games unless they are $20 tops. Because if they charge $30 for like an 8-year-old game, and if they actually port Persona 3, which they're supposed to as well, and that's even older, then that's like insanely overpriced. So don't go for this game unless it's $20, because then you can just justify picking it up day and date. Maddie, which one would you pick, Persona 5 Golden or Royal, and why? Probably Royal, just because I think it sets a better standard for the future of the series, but Golden's my favorite. Karak, do you believe games like Maneater and Desperado 3s have or will sell well?
I think Maneater probably didn't sell well.
Yeah.
Desperados will probably sell well because there is a contingent of gamers, and the review is doing insanely good, which I would assume means there is also an insane amount of interest.
Yeah.
But not Maneater, unfortunately. Maneater got sort of chewed up. Desperados almost, I think, across the board has good reviews, but Maneater definitely didn't. Got a lot of misses from a lot of different people.
He also asked us 3 different questions, but to make sure we can get to everyone in a timely manner, we're going to pick one. He asked us, are any of us playing The Last of Us Part 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do plan on playing it. I was like you, Karak. I saw you tweet about it. I was supposed to get a review copy, but then they kind of just ghosted.
Yeah.
Like they literally responded. I was like, wow, like, oh my God. You know, like I wasn't bitching about any of the leaks either. I was just covering them. I was like thinking to myself though, I'll see if they want to like do a review copy, because the videos did really well. So I thought like, oh, why not? And when they got back, I thought, wow, okay, here we go. Like this is perfect. And nothing. Reached out to like 3 different people who were supposed to help me out. Nothing. Incredible. Not entitled to anything, by the way, when I say that. It's just, like I said, it's just incredible. Like, you just think like, yeah, oh, okay. I'll go do something else.
I'm not going to say I believe it on, I don't know what happened with mine, but I honestly feel like there was a small chance that they ghosted me on purpose so that I would not get a street copy, even though I still looked. This will be like the 3rd or 4th time they've done it.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be rude. I just don't find them honest. One particular company is their PR is rough. And it's not just Maddie and I, by the way. I talked to multiple people because I got about 85 DMs where people, because I am known to usually get copies, and people were just like, dude, I didn't hear.
Yeah.
So
I feel you. JK1107. Have either of you played Demon's Souls? And what are your thoughts on the remake that was just announced? Well, we did cover this a little bit. I struggle with Demon's Souls. The skeletons that roll at you with their swords out fucking killed me all the time. So I had trouble with that. Hopefully they don't come back. They just forget to remake them. But yeah, like I said earlier, most hype announcement for me. Top 3, I should say.
Yeah, interested in it.
Yeah. Ben Jam asks us, what's one thing we would change about the event? More release dates. That would be mine.
No GTA 5.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah, I might take that over the dates.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Yeah. I remember like being so confused too.
I was, and I was making it known. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, I didn't want to like overreact because I was like, oh, it's the opening. Like, we'll see how it gets set up. But they made me forget about it real quick when Spider-Man came up. I'll just say that. They knew what they were doing. True. They had a good pace for that because they sometimes knew when they had a weak announcement or a light one, and they just timed it out well. We have 5 questions from Natural Calamity, but since we're nearing on a total of 3 hours in recording time, we are going to pick one.
Why don't we pick the first one, and then just answer the other ones in the next?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Does that work for you?
Yep. Oh. Number 1, and the only one. In this day and age, a single word from a game developer can create hype for a game. Why don't you think more developers take this tactic? Probably because it gets blown back in their face so easily. You're talking to a guy who covers a lot of Bethesda games, right? And so the amount of comments I get that say 16 times the detail is fucking incredible. Like every Todd Howard one-liner that's ever come out has been used against him. So that's probably why they don't use it. It may sell more, but it also is like a point where they become a laughing stock.
It's also one against... Oh,
sorry, I was just going to say even a guy like Todd Howard, who I'd say is pretty well respected and like clearly has shown for many games he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Still bounces back.
It's 1 against 100 too. One person says something and 100 people listen, and then 1,000 people, and if it only takes one YouTuber. I mean, so if I were a developer, I wouldn't tell you shit. By the way, I wouldn't, unless there was a PR need, I would not be telling you shit. And it would be, and if somebody asked me a question, I'd be like, we're looking into it. Because there's been a couple times where somebody's been like, can you be a guy or a girl? You know, because people want to have choice. Somebody be like, well, our story's based on Karak's life, and he is a guy, so we're going to do Karak's life, whatever. And people just be like, whoa, I want to, and I'm just like, dude, why did you say anything? Why didn't you say, well, we're looking into it? I did for everything. I'd be like, we'll get back to you.
Deflections all day.
Yeah, deflections all day, man. Yeah, it's rough. It would suck.
All right, Karak, we made it.
Oh, is that it?
Yep, that was it.
Damn.
Long show. Appreciate it. We really appreciate you, Karak, because you come here from 2 shows, so you're a soldier.
It's always a blast.
You're a soldier.
What time did we start? We started at just a tiny bit after 1:30.
Yeah, and I took like a 7-minute moment to step away. That was really it, though. Outside of that, we did not break.
Damn. Hashtag Iron Man.
Hashtag
Iron Man. Yeah, we're Iron Men, man. We
That's
fucking
true.
3 hours of a podcast.
I thought you were making a joke about the VR version getting delayed.
No, Vita. What's a Vita?
Yeah.
That's no. I'm just saying we're Iron Men, man. We'll sit through this shit. We'll do podcasts for hours. Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. Hashtag Iron Man is your call, ladies and gentlemen. If you really did get this deep, we appreciate you more than usual this time around, because this is a particularly long episode. Crazy. So we hope you enjoyed. And with that, we will catch you guys next week with episode 257 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast. Peace out.
Peace out.